Everyone to tonight's city council meeting and just kind of set the stage on why you're here. As a reminder, this was a request from the city council to have this meeting tonight to have a greater understanding of the general fund. The general fund is where we are facing the largest deficit. But as a reminder, tonight's meeting is not about our future budget. Our budget hasn't been posted, so we can't ask questions about what next year budget's going to look like. This is about the current year budget that we're in, so we can all get a baseline understanding of what is happening in the divisions within the city. We do have a really robust agenda, and I know the city manager and her team have been working really hard tonight to present to us what's going on. I know she did one-on-one meetings with every division. They presented to her. They've really dialed it in. So I really want to encourage the city council on all of our behalf. I just want to thank the staff for their hard work. And this will alleviate the other 6 of you starting every comment with 4 minutes of thank yous. So just know we are internally grateful for the work that you've done. So don't expect to hear it from anyone besides me tonight. I would also say that there's a lot of topics to get through. All of us have different desires and wants out of tonight. Not everyone needs to have conversations on every single topic. We will not get through the list if we do that. If you have a niche thing that you need answered, I would encourage you to take notes. Of course, we can ask questions tonight, but this is more about us in a learning environment. So asking questions to get a better concrete idea to help you move along, I would definitely suggest that. But I would resist all urge to ask about future budget because you'll hear from the staff over and over again, it's against the Oregon budget meeting laws for us to do that and take into account what we're doing. I asked the city manager this morning in the office if she's ever done something like this before. And all of her years of experience, this is relatively new, but I do think it's important for us to all get a baseline similar understanding because we're all coming at this budget with different years of experience, with different wants and desires. So I just want us to really focus tonight in a learning posture and think about that. And so anyone that is watching or paying attention later, don't take a lack of question as a lack of interest. This is about us learning together. With that, I'm going to turn it over. We should probably call the roll. Everyone's here.
Councillor Duggar?
Here.
Councillor Hartmeyer-Prague?
Here.
Councillor Hassan?
Here.
Councillor Kimmy?
Here.
Councillor Teeter? Councillor Tivnon?
Here.
And Mayor Beatty.
Here. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to the city manager for her to do a little expectation setting and launch right in.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, what I would like to do is have the slide deck put up and really help set the table for the financial landscape for tonight's meeting. As the mayor said, we're not going to be talking about the 25-26 proposed budget, but rather we're going to present you some very high-level information on the current year budget, which is fiscal year 24-25. And then we'll go ahead and dive into the program presentations and discussions. So if we could get the slide deck up, that would be helpful, and then we can launch straight in.
What is the appropriate way you want us to ask questions? Like normally we got it. Thank you.
Great. If we could move to slide 4, we can kick off the financial piece. Some of these slides will be familiar to you, and I will do these very briefly. The slide in front of you right now is a reflection of the general fund revenue. We currently have approximately $89 million coming in revenue, and as you can see from the pie chart in front of you, 60% of that revenue is from property tax. We rely on other sources of revenue for that other 40%, and that includes permits and fees, charges for services, transfers from other funds, things like fines and interest income, grants from intergovernmental relationship agreements, and other taxes like marijuana tax and cigarette tax. The next slide is a general fund expenditure overview. Again, it is $97 million, and you can hear the delta difference between the 89 in revenue and the 97. We have subsequently closed that, so rest assured you have a balanced budget. But in addition to that $97 million, we also have reserves and other contingencies at $15 million that make up a total of $112 million in expenditures. And the majority of our expenditures are made up from the police department. That's about 45%. And then you'll see a 24% slice of that pie, which says admin. And we've rolled up, for ease of the conversation today, multiple programs in that. So city attorney, city manager, comms, engagement, events, homelessness, recorder's office, equity, sustainability, all of our internal services, human resources, IT, finance, and council and mayor budgets are all rolled up into that 24%. And then we also have community development, which is our planning and our economic development, around 14%. You'll see the court in there making up 6%, and non-departmental, which we'll talk about later, which is comprised of debt service to contracts for janitorial, et cetera, that makes up 11%. The next slide is an example of our FTEs, and FTE means full-time equivalent, if you're not familiar with that term. And this essentially reflects reductions actually that we've made over the past 3 years. This chart actually goes back to fiscal year ending 21 to the current year. And obviously we need people to do work, but we've really been reallocating and reducing our resources. We want to work more efficiently, obviously, for the community. But specifically over the past 3 years, we've reduced our total FTE count starting at the peak of 395 to 367. So that's a reduction of 28 FTE. And just for those that are watching at home, one FTE does not mean one person. It can actually be comprised of two people. So you could have a half-time person at 0.5, another half person at 0.5, and that's two people, but one FTE. So just to kind of set the table on that. The next slide, because we are also having challenges in our library fund, we're going to be covering that as well. So you have two pie charts in front of you, expenditures and revenue by type. The total budget for the library is approximately $12 million, very similar to the general fund. Personnel makes up a majority of our expenses at 63%. And one thing to note is that the library revenue has two key sources. The city pays property tax towards the library services, makes up roughly 41% of our revenue. And the other 56% is from Washington County Cooperative Library Services, which is WCCLS, and also a contribution from the county. And then we have a little miscellaneous revenue source, but the two major pieces are property tax and funding, which is from a property tax levy, and that's the reference to WCCLS. And then the last slide I want to present to you is the library budgeted FTE. Again, we have worked really hard to reduce our footprint over the past 3 years, as you know, because expenditures are outpacing revenue. And so in this chart, you'll see that at the peak, we were at 71, and we dropped that down to 58, which is a 13 reduction FTE. Total. So you can see that we've been moving in a downwards position. And one thing to note before I turn it over to Dan is that this kind of sets a really great transition to talk about capacity and what that means. So the next slide, Dan, I can turn that to you.
Yeah, this one is really meant to kind of describe terms a little bit, but also to think about the capacity for the staff is tied up in a lot of ongoing programs, right? So the idea that projects are finite, programs are ongoing. We have a lot of staff that are allocated to ongoing work. And so, in order for us to squeeze more efficiency, we've enacted the process improvement program and some trainings to try to look for efficiencies in how the work is done. We've also been looking for efficiencies in our relationships with others, because a lot of the work we do isn't our staff doing it. It's our staff managing other folks, right? We have contracts for all kinds of programs that are ongoing, and our staff manage those contracts. So just thinking about, we've reduced our FTE count, which also then puts pressure on a lot of the other work, because there's fewer people to manage the things that we're trying to do, while we're also trying to squeeze efficiencies. So it's a little bit of a math problem. It's a little bit of an art and science kind of problem, but I just wanted to frame that up for you as well. When we're talking about a lot of the work, it's programmatic. It's ongoing work. It's not finite projects, but there are obviously projects that come up. Just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to get into the programmatic discussion, just a few items. If there are questions that we can't answer, require a little bit more detail, we're going to track them in a parking lot so that we can come back to them and answer them for council at another time. The first department will be the police department, and so Chief Jepson and believe Deputy will join me up here, and we're going to be talking through the different programmatic areas of her department, and feel free to ask questions after she concludes her remarks, probably roughly 15 minutes. And just to be mindful, we have roughly around 30 to 40 minutes for this discussion.
Is it on? Yeah. Good evening, council. Good evening, Mayor. Or is it evening? It might still be afternoon. I'm going to walk you through a very large exercise of how to overview our police department. And in doing so, I've taken down copious notes, and I think the best way for me to accomplish that is to simply kind of read from that and go through it one by one. So let me start by talking about public safety. And public safety is one of the most critical foundations of any thriving community. It directly impacts the vitality, the livability, and the long-term health of our city. When safety is compromised, or when it lacks a trusted partnership between law enforcement and its community, the results are not hard to spot. We see it in increased crime, reduced investment, and a visible erosion of public confidence. Beaverton stands in contrast to that reality. Our city has long been a shining example of a safe, welcoming, and vibrant community, one that not only attracts a diverse population, but also invites businesses to grow and thrive. That strength comes from an ongoing commitment to modern, responsive, and community-focused policing that puts people first and ensures that safety remains a shared value. Our police department is comprised of 186.75 dedicated public servants. 140 of those are sworn police officers. 46.75 of those are professional staff employees. Tonight, I want to share more than just a summary of how our department is configured. I want to weave a story about the exceptional, comprehensive work that's being done across every corner of our organization. While we are structured into distinct divisions, operations, investigations, services, administration, and emergency management, we function as a single unified team. Each area brings its own expertise, but together they form a full picture of how we keep Beaverton safe. To begin that story, I'll start with our operations division and move through the rest of the organization, highlighting the vital contributions of each. Let me start with our patrol division, the most forward-facing division in our police department. It's where our uniformed personnel are mainly situated. It is the foundation of our department. It is comprised of 66 full-time employees deployed across 4 shifts, days, relief, swings, and graves, providing around-the-clock coverage. These officers have responded to over 79,000 calls for service annually, handling everything from emergencies to quality of life issues. I think it's important for you guys to understand that we utilize GPS-based dispatching technology to route the closest available officer to each call, ensuring faster response and better use of resources. Calls are prioritized by urgency, so a 911 call for a large fight at a local business or a bar may require multiple officers, while lower priority calls, like minor property damage, may hold until units are available to respond to that call. This approach allows us to stay efficient and responsive to the community's most pressing needs. I also want to note this division responded to over 3,300 traffic crashes, issued 5,300 traffic citations, also issuing over 8,000 traffic warnings. They drew 13,000 cases and wrote over 17,000 police reports. Within patrol, we have additional specialized resources embedded in our patrol division that ensure we offer the most comprehensive service possible to our community. I'd like to just provide a couple specific examples of what that looks like. First, another very popular and visible program would be our K-9 unit. Our well-trained and regionally recognized K-9 unit currently has 4 dogs assigned, and if you wanted to know their names, I brought them for you. It's Riggs, Dutch, Ox, and Shug. These canines provide critical assistance in searching for suspects, endangered missing individuals such as our children or elderly, locating evidence, and de-escalating high-risk situations. Their presence is a force multiplier, improving efficiency, increasing officer safety, helping bring quick resolutions to incidents that would otherwise require significantly more resources. In addition to that, they're a beloved member of our police family and of our community. They are often used in community engagement events and are absolutely adored. Another team I want to talk about, just to kind of give you a level of service that's provided within our patrol division that's kind of advanced, is new technology that we've leveraged, which we call a remote operated vehicle team, which is more commonly known as our drone program. This team adds vital aerial support for tactical and search operations with the ability to access hard-to-reach areas and provide real-time intelligence. Drones increase situational awareness and safety during critical incidents while enhancing public safety and officer support. In addition, in our patrol division or in operations, you'll find our traffic unit. That unit is a very visible and consistent unit that is consisted of 3 motor officers, 2 traffic cars, and 1 motor sergeant. Their work ranges from focused enforcement, school zone safety, to DUI prevention, and so much more, all aimed at reducing crashes and injuries and making Beaverton a more safe transportation community. The entire division removed more than 500 impaired drivers from our community last year, significantly contributing to safer roadways and reinforcing our commitment to proactive public safety. In addition to the traditional traffic safety approach, we operate an intersection photo enforcement program that's staffed by 3.25 employees that enhances traffic safety by targeting high-risk intersections deployed at 4 different locations throughout our community. The program uses data and technology to address speeding and collisions while maximizing the effectiveness of limited personnel. Next, I want to move into our investigations unit, which is another obviously big division within our police department. I'll break that out so that it makes sense on how it's deployed. Our criminal investigations unit includes 17 detectives, 3 professional staff personnel, 3 sergeants, and 1 lieutenant, specializing in felony level person and property crimes. Most of this team focuses on person crimes such as assaults, domestic violence, and sex offenses. We also have detectives assigned to participate in our county drug team, which is known as WIN, and our county's gun violence task force, known as Covert, extending our reach through collaboration with regional partners. These detectives apply specialized training, sensitivity, and persistence to ensure thorough investigations and strong case development. Using trauma-informed practices, they approach victims with compassion while leveraging data, technology, and regional partnerships to effectively resolve complex cases. Also within our investigations division is our property and evidence team. This plays a vital role in supporting the justice process. With 4 full-time employees, the team oversees the intake, storage, and lawful destruction of items while ensuring compliance with legal standards. Last year, they processed over 7,300 items and handled more than 4,500 discovery requests, all while maintaining strict chain of custody protocols and accurate documentation. As you can imagine, there's a lot of mandates surrounding the handling of evidence and the proper destruction of things like narcotics and firearms that are taken and either seized as property for safekeeping or as part of a case as evidence. Another program under Investigations Division, which encompasses a pretty large breadth of work, is our Professional Standards Unit. It supports the department through its work in recruitment, hiring, onboarding, background investigations, internal affairs investigations, policy development, and finally accreditation. This team is comprised of a lieutenant, a sergeant, 2 professional staff members, and 2 part-time background investigators. It's a fairly small footprint for the amount of work that they actually take on, all focused on upholding the highest standards of integrity, accountability, and professionalism within our organization. I just want to point to this unit in particular right now because, you know, we've seen all across jobs all across the nation, not just police jobs, but the difficulty in finding and retaining quality employees. And police officer positions have become very difficult to fill. So this unit in particular spends a great deal of time on recruiting and finding and making sure that we have the right people come through the door to wear these uniforms. The next division I want to talk about is our services division. And what I want to touch on here is that you're going to hear me talk about different units within this division, and they're really, they kind of are like switch hitters, if you will, to use a baseball metaphor. While they do a lot of community engagement, and it's easy to see why they're in our services division, they are very strongly anchored to our patrol and our operations division. So they take on bodies of work within our patrol division, and you'll see how that connects as I go through these different units. I'll first start with our shining star here, the bike patrol unit. This is a shining example of a proactive, community-focused engagement team. While part of our services division, like I said, they work closely with patrol to augment their efforts. The team currently consists of 6 officers and 1 sergeant, deployed 7 days a week from 6 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. Their mobility and presence make them especially effective in high-traffic areas like parks or downtown core, and they often serve our large-scale community events. Beyond visibility enforcement, this unit plays a critical role in engaging with our homeless population, often serving as the first point of contact for individuals in need. Their approach is compassionate, responsive, and resource-driven, reflecting an industry-leading model that prioritizes human dignity and sustainable outcomes. The team works closely with city staff, Greater Goods Northwest, our mental health court, and multiple regional partners to connect individuals with shelter, services, and long-term support. Next, I want to talk about our community service officers. They're known as our CSOs. They play kind of a dual role for us. Their primary role is to support our patrol division by assisting with custody transports, crash scene security, and parking enforcement. This allows our full-time sworn officers to remain focused on more urgent calls. They also are an essential support service to municipal court by serving as court security during judicial proceedings. This team is comprised of 5 CSOs and is overseen by 1 sergeant. Next, I'll talk about our youth services program, which serves over 40,000 students and staff in the Beaverton School District. This team is made up of 6 officers and 1 sergeant, all of whom are specially trained in national best practices related to school-based law enforcement. The YSOs play a key role in ensuring safety and support within our schools, engaging in everything from threat mitigation and emergency response to conducting sensitive investigations in child abuse cases, which we know to be 307s. Just as an example, we take in 307s at the rate of about 1,500 a year. Those are investigations or reported concerns around potential child abuse, and those get screened and vetted through our investigations division, but often a lot of those are served by our youth services officers, because I'll use this example, if the complaint outlines that a family member is the abuser, the safest approach for us to take in an investigation would be to contact that child in a safe environment such as the school. So that's just an example of some of the work that they do. What makes this unit especially effective is the intrinsic understanding these officers have of our school buildings, safety protocols, and educational culture. This familiarity enables quick, effective responses and has built strong trust with school staff and administration. Our YSOs are not only first responders, but a visible, trusted mentor who supports a safe and inclusive learning environment. They work to build meaningful engagement opportunities in the summer months when school is out, and they partner with THPRD and BSD to provide several week-long camps. Okay, I'm gonna take a breath. It's a lot. Next, I'm staying within the services division, but I'm gonna kind of toggle here because you may wonder why this sits under our services division. But really, our 24/7 police records unit is a one-stop shop, if you will. It really serves the entire police department. This team has 14 specialists, 2 supervisors, and 1 manager. They provide continuous support to the entire department by managing reports, processing records, and serving as a vital hub for documentation and administrative accuracy, all of which are essential to keeping our operations running smoothly. This unit processed over 18,000 police reports, 4,600 public records requests, entered 3,500 subpoenas, and 1,700 arrest warrants. In addition, they handled all lobby contacts and fielded thousands of phone calls. And last but not least, at the core of all these efforts is our training division, which plays a vital role in preparing and equipping our team. This unit consists of 3 training officers, 2 professional staff, 1 training sergeant, and 1 lieutenant. Each year, this division delivers over 20,000 hours of critical training to our officers and professional staff. This instruction allows us to meet the demanding and evolving needs of our industry, including extensive state-mandated certifications and ongoing standards. As we all know, police officers have to maintain certain certifications to be able to be a vital police officer. And so our training division makes sure that we're in compliance with all those state-regulated standards. But in addition to that, and most importantly, it sets a foundation for a transparent, highly professional police department that continues to serve as a national model for modern policing. Modern policing demands that we be as much about connection as we are about enforcement. That's why our training division includes such training as de-escalation, mental health response, cultural competency, and implicit bias awareness. It's also why we invest in relationships on the ground and online, because trust isn't built in emergencies. It's actually built every day by connection. Our community engagement team is woven into everything we do, whether it's Shop with a Cop, Pride, City Parade, Night Market, NAC, community forums, BPD Community Academy, youth camps, Ladies in Blue. I think you get the gist. It's a lot. We're showing up and we're listening, and we're taking this engagement digitally. Our growing social media presence is a vital part of our public relations strategy. Through timely updates, safety tips, officer spotlights, and transparent communication during incidents, we're building a stronger bridge between the department and our community. We are telling our story. Our emergency management program that has recently come under the police department is staffed by 2 dedicated personnel that support our growing population. In addition to overseeing emergency preparedness and response planning, the program leads a robust volunteer network known as CERT that enhances community resilience across a wide range of public safety scenarios. It also works closely with regional stakeholders to align response strategies, coordinate resources, and strengthen the city's readiness for large-scale emergencies and disasters. This program I'm going to touch on right now is it's really anchored by 1 person currently, but I'd say that it really has the biggest and deepest impact throughout our entire culture. And that's our new police wellness program. And it's anchored by a full-time wellness officer and her partner and a comfort canine named Remy. If you haven't met Remy yet, I still need to bring her here. This innovative pairing provides day-to-day support to staff while promoting emotional wellness and resilience. This model supports our personnel across all dimensions of health: emotional, physical, psychological, and financial. This holistic approach ensures that our employees have access to the resources they need to thrive both personally and professionally. In a high-stress profession like ours, having an embedded wellness resource strengthens the overall health of the department and reflects our commitment to caring for those who serve our community. And I would argue that that's kind of an inside-out approach, that the healthier staff you have, the healthier police officers you have, the better they're going to serve the community. Lastly is the Office of the Chief. What is comprised here is 9 employees, to include myself and my deputy chief, our financial manager, which we call our strategic initiatives manager, additional support staff, our PIO, and our public relations production manager. This division provides strategic direction and oversight for the entire police department. This includes leadership on strategic initiatives, budget preparation and management, policy direction, and administration of operations. I want to also point out that it manages grants. One of its most critical roles is in public relations, ensuring strong, transparent communication with both internal staff and the community. In a modern police department, trust is obviously built with consistent, meaningful engagement, which is essential to our long-term success. In summary, our department is moving forward with a comprehensive and modern approach. Visible patrols, specialized units, safety education, effective investigations, robust community engagement, emergency preparedness, world-class training, all underpinned by transparency, professionalism, and a commitment to serve. Thank you.
Maybe you dazzled them with your presentation skills. I mean, you don't have to. I'm just saying. Go ahead, Counselor Teeter.
Thank you, Chief. Can you tell me a little bit more about the community engagement team? Is it uniformed officers? Is it non?
It's a great question. So it's kind of bifurcated throughout the police department, but in specific to the programming,
Right.
we have one professional staff employee, Latice Rule, who is our program coordinator, who does a lot of the coordination around all of our community events. But it's an all hands on deck approach, largely done by her in the way of the coordination efforts. So think about like a Shannon Mason in the way of planning events. But it tethers all the way through our police organization, starting at the Office of the Chief, like I referred to, with public relations and how we communicate through digital media and things of that nature. But then these on-the-ground kind of touches with Shop with a Cop, our NAC, all these things. And then just like I could talk about just the importance of community engagement from the perspective of the everyday boots-on-the-ground police officers, our bike team. I mean, it tethers all the way through, but from programmatically, it's anchored really through one employee, and that's light. We've previously had more than one employee doing that work.
Yeah, thank you. That makes sense. I know that I've seen officers, ladies in blue, and officers doing a lot of the outreach. That makes sense. Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, a couple questions. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on the relationship with TriMet and the way we service with them. It looks like a few FTEs worth of help there. And then I noticed, and going off memory here, but like some of the material services costs in the police, this current budget, seem higher than other departments. Can you give us examples of like what those cost by and like what investments that is? Thank
Absolutely. Let me take the first one, and I actually didn't weave in TriMet in here, so thank you for pointing that out. The reason I didn't, but I think it's important to talk about, is that we are reimbursed for those personnel. So we have 4 assigned to TriMet currently. They aren't just geospecific to Beaverton. They police the entire west line, so they go into Hillsborough and parts of county, wherever the MAX line would run and any TriMet bus service would be. But we get 105% reimbursable cost for those positions. The 5% is like administrative costs tied. So not only do we get their roll-ups with personnel and benefits, we also get any overtime expenditures, equipment, uniforms, it's a full meal deal that they pay for. Does that answer that? Yeah, okay. M&S, specific to the entire police department, is a big chunk of our M&S is just the day-to-day operations that you would think of. So like to outfit a police officer, as an example, is a large expenditure when you're talking about all the gear that comes with me, my uniforms, ballistic panels, things of that nature, very expensive. Radios, handguns, rifles, all the tactical stuff, cars. But M&S in particular, you're also looking at things like our training division and the amount of training our officers get. But it's broken out, as you would know, through each of the divisions based on the needs of those divisions.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. The reason I was asking, and that's exactly what I was thinking it was, and like, just when it's a lot easier to think about funding cuts in future budget discussions, like cut the council's M&S, and we're not going to not be able to do our job. But like, I think if some of the basic stuff you're saying is like, can't have a police officer without a uniform and some of the ballistics and stuff like that. So I just think that was super helpful.
And there's there's replacement cycles for all of these things. So they, like, ballistic panels are a great example. They only will last for 5 years, and then you're right back at if you have 140 officers that wear ballistic panels, that adds up very quickly when they're about $1,000 a pop. So large expenditures are tied to the police position in and of itself. But then, the training is a good example too, because like as we saw as we came through COVID, we were able to kind of drop back on those expenditures in M&S because we couldn't train, we couldn't go anywhere. So, but to have a fully realized, robust, well-trained police department, it costs money. So.
If this is red, it's not working, but then the other, am I just not, is it on?
I think it was on when it was red.
Is this on now? Okay. If I heard correctly, and help me if I didn't, you mentioned a professional standards unit that sits under investigative services that does like the policy development and the support and the recruiting. And then there's a training division that does the critical training. Is it just normal in police that lives into? I'm like, my HR brain is like, oh, aren't those together?
They can be, and that's a great question. Actually, in a lot of police departments, they do cohabitate. It just is our model that we have those, they work very closely together. While they may sit in a different part of the organization by structure, they work hand in hand because they are tied to our certifications, and all the professional standards stuff is really interwoven into, like, policy and training go hand in hand. You can't have the two being separate, but yes, it's a good question. There are other police departments all around this region that they would cohabitate in.
Okay.
This is one that's different.
Okay, and then just a follow-up, and I know this is more just dreamy maybe for a second, like, has there ever been conversation around leveraging data to help better decide how we move? So when you said like child abuse, I was like, okay, how many of these were founded? What data are, what are these families saying? Like, again, futuristic, but.
Yeah, I mean, we are a data-driven police department. I mean, we do a lot of analytics around, a good example would be if like we have a rash of burglaries in a residential area, like we can hotspot those and do directed patrols and do focused patrols. But around like child abuse investigations, we get those from the Department of Human Services. So when they come in, we're mandated to investigate them. So there's, I mean, while we can kind of separate and cleanly talk about like the ones that were not founded, if you will, because we do get a big chunk of those, or just we check, and it's a nothing. And we document all of that. But then we go and check, and it's substantial, and that creates, a whole body of work behind it. So to your point, it's just like triaging any kind of call that we would go to. Sometimes a call could come out that sounds very awful, and we get to it, and it ends up being nothing. Sometimes we can get a 911 hang up and get there, and it's a kid playing with the phone, as an example. So, I mean, we triage all of that.
That's all I have.
Wow, yes.
Thanks for going first. Your colleagues better get warmed up because that was an easy round. Up next is Andy.
Thank you, Council.
A cookie, so please get yourself one. Thank you.
I was like,
What? Am I supposed to give it back to you?
Oh, no, I'm
Oh.
laughing about that. The cookie is the bar,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I
You have
want
to
two
earn
by the end of the
cookies
night.
around here, so all of you that pre-ate cookies, you better bring your A game. Let's give the council 1 second to settle before you jump in.
Got to work for it, right?
Really quick. I don't know who's the controller. Can we just make the slide bigger so I can follow? I know I have it. Thank you very much. Oh, really? Sometimes it's hard for me to know which one they're on, but that's better, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor and City Council. It's always great when a mayor portends the next presenter that you guys better buckle up because that wasn't enough questions. So I guess I will do so. So the Community Development Department has 8 divisions. And with me tonight is Lee Crabtree, Assistant Community Director, and a couple phone of friends if we need Tyler and Anna in the back. So Community Development Department has 8 divisions. We also call Community Development CDD, so I'll refer to it that way throughout. There are many programs nested within, as you can see in the packet and on the screen, but this afternoon I'll explain how our divisions work. You won't see the building division on this slide because it's an operating fund that is self-sustaining and receives no permanent general fund support. However, you do see the Bureau operation and administration as part of our portfolio as it reimburses the general fund for the FTE. CDD is the facilitator of development and construction in Beaverton, but we also assist first-time homebuyers, small minority-owned businesses, childcare providers, entrepreneurs, artists, makers, nonprofits, those who need tenant protections, and those seeking affordable housing. We plan for the future and implement the present. We have a strong culture of customer service, collaboration, project management, and process improvement in CDD. Our core services and mandated activities are rooted in our development review process. That's DRP. You're going to hear that a few times. DRP takes the most time and resources of all of our functions to ensure that new development is compatible with various goals and policies. And it may often involve more than mere application of our development code, land use and zoning standards. The development review process is an essential function of local government. And you can think of DRP like a cycle where planning, site development, and building the programs are landing points on that cycle. This process, although tightly coordinated, also has many checkpoints and even detour opportunities along the way that can involve several reviews and multiple partners along with community engagement as appropriate. So our department's work begins in service to the community vision, council goals and priorities, and our comprehensive plan. We do long-range planning to forward think 20 years or more and ensure that our community grows in a sustainable manner, taking into account policy changes, economic and demographic conditions, fiscal considerations, natural resources, and even technological changes. The Transportation System Plan, a multi-year project being overseen by a transportation planning division, is one example of long-range work. That division also oversees more politically sensitive and complex transportation planning projects like the Milliken Way improvements, the downtown loop, before they become construction ready. Cooper Mountain planning, the housing production strategy, and annexation policies are other examples of work in our long-range planning section. Our current planning section handles smaller, non-technical land use applications, think of a sign permit or a lot line adjustment, all the way up to larger, more complex comprehensive plan amendments and annexations. Current planning is usually the first step in a development project, as receiving a land use application starts the development review process. Now, depending on the complexity of a project, relevant staff hold pre-application conferences with folks so they know what it takes to submit a complete application. So this is work being done before someone submits. That's not always a guarantee. Sometimes we have to do a lot of work in hand-holding with applicants to submit something that is complete. Development reviews are performed by qualified and technical staff in order to determine if a project can meet multi-jurisdictional regulations and standards, including natural resources compatibility, land uses, building forms and landscape, public infrastructure, fire life, and safety conditions. Development review weaves many processes together, not just within our own divisions, but also in working with other city services like Public Works, Legal, and ITS, as well as our many partner agencies in Beaverton. It's important to remember that in Oregon, we have a shot clock where land use decisions must be made within 120 days after an application is deemed complete. That includes approval by a decision-making body and time for any potential appeal. A lot of coordination, communication, and technical work is contained in the lead up to that decision. In addition to doing regular code maintenance and process improvements, our planning division is also responsible for reviewing and commenting on all of the housing and land use bills that proliferate in our state legislature, while simultaneously navigating new state and metro land use rules that continuously evolve, as well as new FEMA floodplain requirements. Land use application volumes have been steadily increasing over recent years with a slight upward trend. In FY23, we had 616, FY24, we had 666, and we're projecting approximately 700 for this fiscal year, land use applications. Next slide, Jesse. Our site development division works in close collaboration with our development review partners. So we've gone from planning, it goes after planning kicks their work to site development. Site development's core functions are to oversee the issuance of construction permits for public infrastructure improvements linked to private and public development and construction activities within rights-of-way and public easements. This program plays a crucial role in ensuring compliance with regulations such as our engineering design manual and development code, and maintaining the quality of public infrastructure through rigorous plan review and inspection processes. Site development closely coordinates with multiple public works and engineering programs to ensure infrastructure plans align with our various utility goals and maintenance plans. And Site Dev also works closely with partners like CWS and DEQ for compliance with environmental permits. We issue roughly 30 to 35 site development permits per year, and another 780 for other right-of-way permits like sidewalks, franchise utilities, small cell wireless. Now, although not captured in this exercise because they're not a general fund program, our building division ensures compliance with mandated state building code standards and city development regulations as part of the city's DRP. They provide building permit services, perform plan reviews, field inspections, and engage in electronic permitting system continuous improvements. So building is a lot like site development in their functions, but one reviews and protects public assets in the right-of-way and public easements, that's site development, while the other performs a similar set of functions for construction on private lots, and that's our building division. So here's an example of a typical development permitting timeframe for a single detached or middle housing on a lot that already exists and that meets the standards in the development code. A middle housing design review will take 3 to 4 weeks to issue the land use approval if a complete application is submitted and after a permit has been routed through our various divisions. It then takes about 4 weeks to issue the building permit after they do their own plan reviews. Land use and building permits are reviewed by site development staff, but they may not always require a site development permit if no infrastructure is needed. In 2024, 886 housing units were produced. 303 of those were single-family residential, 583 were multifamily. And if that's whetted your appetite, you'll have more housing metrics coming your way later this month in a memo to prepare for a July work session that will give you all an update on the progress of our housing production strategy. So more to come there. That summarizes the development review process. All three divisions also spend as much time as needed at our customer service counter, working with average residents, mom and pop builders, all the way to large multinational developers to get projects into the development pipeline. Next, I'll briefly touch on our code services division. They have direct oversight from our building official, and this program enhances livability by helping residents and businesses understand and comply with their responsibilities under the Beaverton City Code. Due to staffing, their workload is both proactive but primarily complaint-driven. Okay, let's move to the economy. New and existing construction, predominantly homes in Beaverton, needs services and employment centers to create a cohesive and self-sustaining community. As I described earlier, the development review process requires coordination, technical analysis, and a bit of hand-holding. Nurturing and working with our business sector can be a similar experience. Our economic development division works with multiple programs that focus on strategic partnerships that elevate city priorities and deliver outcomes. The Oregon Startup Center supports scalable, innovative businesses, while a new nonprofit incubator will provide similar technical support, leadership, and strategic planning for our community-based organizations. Over the past 9 years, OSC has leveraged the city's $440,000 in funding support into more than $800,000 in angel investing and a further $110 million raised by companies in follow-on funding. Our partnership with the Beaverton Downtown Association leverages our downtown placemaking efforts. BDA welcomed 11,000 visitors for their 2 downtown events in 2024, and they launched a mural campaign and a $250,000 historic preservation grant on the Fisher Rossi building on Broadway. Our partnership with the Chamber and Impact Beaverton offers technical assistance, targeted outreach, and ecosystem leadership to small, local, and culturally specific businesses. Impact held 21 workshops with 190 entrepreneur attendees in 2024. In addition to small businesses, our ECDev division also administers the Enterprise Zone program for larger investment and employment opportunities. Looking ahead, we're entering a strategic planning process informed by state-of-the-art thinking across industries and stakeholders. This process will help guide our next phase of work and ensure that our programs are effective and aligned with the Council's focus on fiscal recovery. Learning from our experience in the past in restaurant recruitment, pandemic assistance, and child care support, we'll take an approach to program development that incorporates best practices with our city's unique operational strengths and assets to provide a meaningful outcome. Up next, the Beaverton Urban Renewable Redevelopment Area, BURA, I'll just say BURA, Programs Division contains a plethora of business support programs and redevelopment opportunities, all guided by the 2011 voter-approved Central Business Urban Renewal Plan. Tax increment financing is the major funder of BURA programs, although some program income supplements several initiatives. Our incentive programs provide financial and technical assistance for property and business owners in the district to improve existing structures and quality rehabilitation or preservation, and they investigate barriers to redevelopment. Our team works with BURA's 5-year action plan and property portfolio strategy to unlock new development and redevelopment of the district, and Lombard West and the Center Hall sites are recent examples. Our parking team manages the Central Beaverton Garage and the on-street parking program to provide our downtown businesses and visitors with available, accessible, and affordable parking options all day long. That has required close coordination and partnership with the BPD, which we greatly appreciate. BURA also plays a large role in transportation and infrastructure improvements that unlock redevelopment, including support for the loop, utility upgrades, and a stormwater sub-basin strategy in the downtown core. Closely linked programming is found in our development division. This team works on programs that help unlock affordable housing, tenant assistance, home renovations, and facilitating home ownership through community development block grant and other attainable housing programs. CDBG has assisted more than 125 households in the past 3 years with rehabilitation and repairs, keeping more folks in their homes. This team has also been our facilitator of the Metro Affordable Housing Bond. The 5 bond projects in Beaverton will amount to 478 affordable units once the Meadowlark Senior Housing Project on 5th is complete in 2 years. DevDiv, we call it DevDiv, also focuses on livability and placemaking for our community by working with Main Street program partners on downtown projects, as well as the First Street Commons, by supporting our community artists with more than 25 grants and scholarships each year, as well as marketing and a marquee platform at the Reserve. and by working with small minority-owned businesses along the Allen Boulevard corridor. Beneficiaries of that grant include owners of Wabi, a Mexican-Japanese restaurant, which started as a food cart at the Beaverton Night Market, but soon had a following that required their expansion. The building improvement program helped them expand to their first brick-and-mortar space along Allen Boulevard. Development Division is also highly integrated into the Central Beaverton Round campus planning and activities, and they manage the city's vertical housing development zone and nonprofit affordable housing tax abatement programs. Finally, our admin and ops division gives all of this work the tools and technology support to make the team cohesive and effective, and for CDD to remain accessible to our community. Operations help us lead with the customer service approach, focus at the permit counter and with coordinated trainings, and helps coordinate process efficiencies, our work plan progress, and continuous improvements. The division is also very involved with partners on urban service coordination and planning with THPRD for parks and open spaces work. Beaverton, for a long time, was a quaint bedroom community in the suburbs. But as we all recognize, the city is becoming more urban. This creates challenges, but those are far outweighed by incredible opportunity for our community. Overall, a priority for CDD is to continue shifting our mindset from regulator to facilitator. Beaverton has become well-known in the development community, I think the hard work from a lot of folks in the last 10 years, as a good place to do business. Much of that has to do with the relationships we built in CDD and the trust that has endured. As long as we stay customer-focused, Beaverton can grow and still retain its small-town feel as a great place to invest and build. Our staff up and down CDD is always building relationships with new, old, and potential customers. In closing, our department is about adding value to our community. We do that through all the programs I described earlier. And we're also very mindful that our department, maybe the sole department, is a major contributor to adding assessed property tax value in our community. As a big believer in our fiscal recovery focus, I wish we could structure our state's tax system differently, where all the wonderful multifamily units and subdivisions help balance our tax base. But right now, we're at a disadvantage. Now, as we wait patiently for that fix, and I'll look at Jocelyn for that, we should all feel proud in knowing that we continue to attract new neighbors, introduce diverse businesses, and draw meaningful investment in a community that supports growth and development in a responsible way. I'm done. I'm done now.
Get a cookie. Questions? Counselor Duggar.
Yeah, I'm going to ask this, and I will also give you a preview. Most of you also will be getting a version of this question, so be thinking about it. I think about capacity of our departments, our people to do work through people, process, and tools and technologies. Can you tell me how we are currently or plan to leverage AI to create additional capacity to get work done?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I don't know how Travis will answer this question. He's going to be in for a real ride. No, Travis has been, and ITS has been proactive in rolling out a kind of a pilot of Copilot, for instance, of one AI technology across the organization. So we have a cohort of users to kind of talk and collaborate and give best use case examples of how we're using AI. I know that we've had some folks in planning that have been working with ITS and thinking heavily about AI for, say, writing staff reports. A lot of that times you're applying development code over and over again with some nuances there, so I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I think we can also use it in some other areas of research, meeting preparation, and document review. But again, we're using this cohort to kind of see what other best practices people can spread to, but I think we'll be applying that in our department as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to be critical. And in my day job, we look at that not as like a replacement of human labor, but allow us to use our human, our professional folks to do the work that's actually required of them and to pull the stuff off their desk that is like, that we all have to do, that none of us enjoy, the monotonous stuff, the reports, the searching the development code, right? Yeah. Tell me all the instances where this pops up, right? So it can triage work and things like that. So I think that's really important for us to expand thinking about AI beyond just an IT, kind of a IT problem and our IT resource, but it's an operational thing. So I appreciate you guys looking into that.
Andy, I think I liked your point about the division that adds taxable acres to the city. I also think you have an opportunity in one of the few divisions that could do cost recovery. So tell me a little bit, as you're the new division manager, what you've seen coming from your other cities and experience, and what are you looking towards? I think about economic development in particular because what I think I find challenging is the way that Measure 5 and 50 is set up, that it doesn't really matter if that building produces $1 million of revenue or $48 million of revenue. We still get the same amount, but your team has to do a lot to like create jobs. So how are you looking at cost recovery for your division?
Well,
and that's probably harder than the AI question, but I told you to warm up.
Yeah. I mean, I know there are models out there with varied success where there's some in this region that they treat their different divisions in the review cycle. I mentioned them: planning, building, site development. Each is operating funds or an enterprise funds. That way, if you get a lot of permit revenue, for instance, our site development division this year, it's a general fund function, but we got in 3 times the projected revenue that we were expecting there. It would be great to have that instead of going back to the general fund. And not that I don't like my compatriots here, but that would help us sustain our services moving forward. However, there's a big caveat there. When you get through the recession period, for instance, or other lulls in development, having that general fund support is important. And I know, because I've seen it in a Home Builders Association policy report, they do not like these development review sections to be independent operating funds. They like to have general fund support there for that stability. So I think there could always be a subsidy, but that's something to look at, but not that we're not talking about the next budget year. Anyway, that's one. I know our planning team expects to do some more rigorous analysis later this year on cost recovery and our planning fees to supplement what was just passed by the City Council, but we'll do some more, some additional in-depth review, especially as we benchmark against our peer communities. Yeah, that's a great question. It's something I think about all the time. I thought about it a lot at my previous job, and we had a pretty good answer because we had a lot of flat greenfield development opportunities with industrial opportunities. It's much different in Beaverton. I think the diversity and a lot of the housing that we create here is going to mean Beaverton will just look different, and we have to be ready to engage, take advantage of any sort of any of those ways that we can generate revenue. We can. I mean, multifamily assessing at 33%, that does us no favor. Industrial assesses at 100%. We don't have that, so but we'll continue to be part of the fiscal recovery solution, especially for non-residential tax adding as we can.
Mayor, can I just add one thing to the cost recovery conversation? So when we did our fee study work, it looked like development services in general was around 41% cost recovery level. That's pretty low. So mostly maybe 60% is typical of what we see. So I think we do have some room over the next several years to start working on those recovery levels for the city.
And I don't, I know it's unusual for government staff to have a more entrepreneurial brain, but we're going into very likely a recession. We are going to be having to look at things a little bit differently. I don't want to name names in CDD, but there's a lot of employees where I think, wow, we could be charging for that service, or it's a value add that we're adding that's not a requirement, and I appreciate all the notes in here where they're at. And so I don't want staff to go into a tailspin and think, oh my God, I got to spin plates and shake a cup for my job. But we don't know what you guys know. We don't know the kind of intimate work, and we're doing a little bit of that together tonight. But I really want to encourage our staff, when they have good ideas, to start coming up, because we have to, it can't just be the council making policies down that you guys have to be subjected to. All of us have careers that outside of the city council work, but we're not intimately involved in economic development. I mean, Allison a little bit in her role, and Kevin does a little bit in his role, but really our experts are our staff. And I want to encourage as many of our staff, and through you guys as well, to the entrepreneurial spirit on cost. And cost recovery is a shitty word, I get that, but like some other word that seems like we're not trying to tell you to, earn your own job back. But if a few of your FTE could figure out a way to create a fund, that's going to save everyone else in the division. So that was more of my intent of asking that question. I get the traditional stuff like fees for service for building code, but like Bill Berg, like there's a lot of people like that do services, and like, how do we start funding those positions? Because those are ones that are unique to the city. Councilor Teeter.
Thanks, Andy. I just want to say one of the things I really appreciate about that you said was you wanted to set the table, basically, be a facilitator of economic development. And I think that's a really good perspective and framework for us to look at this work. So you mentioned like the Beaverton Downtown Association, the Startup Center, Impact Beaverton. There were a lot of great measurables where it was easy to see the impact, especially the financial impact, but also just community impact. And I think community development might have a unique opportunity there to tell that story of we're investing this little bit, and in return, we are getting a whole lot more. So like there's the cost recovery side for the city, but there's also community impact, and how are we leveraging the little bit of resources we have to do even better with our partnerships in the community. So I appreciate the perspective you shared there.
This is more a comment. It's like when you were bringing up OSC and giving numbers, I was just thinking of what Councilor Teeter was saying. I'm more concerned around what that return is in the city. And that's just I'm not asking anyone to answer, but I'd like us to continue to make sure that when I look at what we're funding, and I just said this to we just talked about this, right? We had a graduation of folks. The question was what funding and what money is coming back into this city. So because you mentioned some numbers, I just want to remind us like that's going to be very important as I'm looking, as I imagine others are. So it's a little bit opposite to what you said maybe, but I wanted to make sure I said it. So that's all.
Thank you. You've all shared something really thought-provoking for me, because like I think that there's this balance of cost recovery and where we subsidize, and I think like our values come into play there, and I think we're really intentional, and it's why you see throughout here just like straight up community investment, which I think is something really important that we do. But then I start thinking about the impact of cost recovery and thinking about, well, does that impact costs, or like, how does that add to like your cost of development, your cost of all the things? So I think it's just a really interesting balance that we're trying to strike, because we know how hard it is to pull off, there's just like no such thing as affordable housing anymore, right? There just really isn't. And we contribute to that. We know we do. We also have to, because it's the cost of running the city. And so I think it's just a really interesting balance. And the fee study is so important for helping us get closer. But then I think about like those other opportunities to earn revenue, so I struggle with it. But I also love like the thinking, because we've also been pushing ourselves like, hey, when we make an investment, how are we continuing to like help that investment sustain, right? So in ActDev, when we say, hey, we gave you a grant, and were we on the journey with you to make sure your business got to stick around, and then the ROI comes back in, right? So that like it becomes that virtuous cycle. And it's so interesting because like we're not a business, and we see how treating government like a business has impacts maybe that are not how we want our city to run. But then we also have to get creative, because we need our city to be sustainable, which is why we're having this conversation. So anyways, I recognize I'm not asking a question. I just think like it's like food for thought, like, right, as we're going through all of this, because I think it's just a really hard balance. And I think that when we're in a budget cycle like this, and one that we've been in for so long, right, it's the hard decisions, and it's not because the work isn't amazing. Like that mandated column was so helpful for me going through this too, because while it might not be mandated, we as a city have said it is mandated. That's why it's there, right? Because we said that's like what's important to us in the city. So I guess I'm just kind of in my feels a little bit
Yeah.
about the conversation, so.
Well, let me just give, to save Andy, since I opened up this can of worms on top of
It's okay.
him,
I
let me-
had to stock it.
I'll give just like one example of what I'm thinking about as cost recovery. There's the fee study, which is going to be highly focused on what do we do and what do we charge for. But a great example of council decision making is around, like, say, the enterprise zone. So we decide in the enterprise zone to waive a lot of the property taxes if you do X amount of investment. Well, our peer, Hillsborough, they didn't give as much of a tax incentive as we did. And so they're recovering property tax at a lot faster of a revenue. So that was a past council decision. I think it's at 25% that we take back. We could bump that to 20 to 35 or even 40, or stair step it up, so that way we start to realize the gain faster. And that would fund somebody like a Bill Berg who's out there doing all of this intense work. So those are the kinds of things that I'm thinking about, and that's a direct place where our decision making. And this wasn't this council that made that decision; it was a past council. But we needed to incentivize the growth 8 years ago because no one wanted to do business in Beaverton. It was a tool that we needed. I would argue now, with a less than 1% vacancy rate, is that tool doing what we intended, and we're losing property tax revenue. So we can't go back on the deals that we made with those businesses, but as we're looking at the enterprise zone as a tool, we should be looking through the lens of how do we support an amazing staff person to go and to work with all these other businesses that can't pay us for their services. So that's where I was going, and not so much like we need to fee for everything that we do, because I do believe that community development is important, but it is not a mandated thing.
Yeah.
And we're going to be having hard decisions around what do we fund? And so I just think they have a unique opportunity to help us create revenue, but we've also not ever been in this financial position, and we've not unleashed staff to do it. We haven't said, go be entrepreneurs. We've said, go be practitioners of government. And so that's a mind shift. That's a city manager decision. I'm just saying, with 10 entrepreneurs in the building, we don't know what we don't know.
Thank you for the example, because I think
Yeah.
I was just kind of hearing a little bit of like, more fee. Like, I wasn't thinking that in that way. And I think that that's really important from us, from the policy perspective, and that long-term impact. And that, thank goodness for past council who made these choices, right? But that doesn't mean that like the same policy needs to stay. We need to like also be adjusting for the moment and adjusting so we can sustain. So thank you for the example.
And we did get veneer software out of that expansion, and we did get some massive business investment. I just don't know if we continue to need it going forward with where we are. Councilor Tifton.
Is this on? Okay. I'd like to thank it, but no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Kidding, Mayor. Well, you already kind of mentioned it, but I'm just going to reiterate the column around what's mandated and what isn't was so helpful, particularly for this particular section, because I think that there's a high level of sympathy, empathy, and frustration that has formed around the mandates, unfunded mandates that are coming out at the state level, that we just had to work in amidst everything else. And it's not that that is by any measure a deciding factor as we go through these, but seeing the nuance there is so helpful to see what the lift really looks like. So I don't have a question either. I just wanted to point that out, and also to say that even if this is not a typical meeting, anyone interested in how the city works needs to tune into it. We should have free airing of this at the Reeser, like C-SPAN style. Bring my son along with me. Yeah.
We need the research to collect revenue to fund itself, so that is not
Get
a very
into that.
cost
I
recovery
stayed away.
mindset, Councilor Tifton, but we could put some chairs in here. Awesome. Well, fine, go ahead. Yeah.
Craig's point, I think one thing that we haven't talked about in cost
Yeah.
recovery is getting the cost of doing the work down too.
Yeah.
Because even if we don't raise the revenue, if something costs $100 right now and we're recovering 60%, if we can get that down to $80 using things like AI or process improvement, all of a sudden we're at 75% recovery without charging a different thing. Because I struggle with the same thing you're talking about, the balance, right? Like when we talk about recovery, we're largely talking about it from the revenue side.
Yeah.
And that takes money away from people that might not have it, or we might be disincentivizing something we really want. And so I think we've got to look at it through both both sides and lenses, and that's just really important to me.
Okay. We're only on number 2, and you guys are coming back in. Go.
Saying, look, I'm here for the AI. I just want to be really careful how we move into the AI. And I think we've got good folks, but I don't want people to love it, and just with caution. Thank you. I just wanted, thank you.
Okay. Well, good job. You earned your cookie. Lee, I don't know, maybe half. Emotional support. Yes, that you definitely get. All right, we're moving on to the library. That is the sexy thing we like to talk about. So, Kim? And we do have a scheduled break, but take care of yourself, council. If you need snacks and do the things, just feel free to move around.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to talk about the library. The Beaverton City Library plays a central role in shaping the physical and social fabric of our engaged and thriving community through thoughtful placemaking. Our locations provide essential, inclusive spaces guided by our service philosophy to build connections, create a space for hope, and lead with service. We believe everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, humanity, and to thrive in welcoming environments where they can learn, discover, explore, and grow. I'm going to start with our Public Services Division. Our public service staff are the face of the Beaverton Library and the foundation of our connection to the community. Every interaction at the front desk, in the stacks, or at the service point is an opportunity to provide exceptional service, foster inclusion, and build trust. These staff members are not only welcoming patrons, they are navigating complex questions, guiding discovery, and supporting learning and access across all ages and backgrounds. Their work directly impacts how our patrons experience the library. Whether it's helping someone apply for a job, locate critical information, navigate technology, or spark a child's love of reading, public service staff shape meaningful experiences that resonate long after a visit ends. Last year, we welcomed over 500,000 people into our locations, answering over 39,000 questions and creating close to 10,000 new library cards. This fiscal year, we connected over 2,500 new Beaverton School District students with library cards through our Student Library Card Initiative. At the Beaverton City Library, we believe everyone deserves access to support, respect, and a sense of belonging. Through our partnership with Greater Good Northwest, funded through opioid settlements, we're able to help individuals navigate housing, addiction recovery, utility assistance, and many other services. Our close relationship with the Beaverton Bike Police Team further strengthens this safety net. We work proactively and collaboratively, regularly communicating and sharing information to address concerns before they escalate. When they do escalate, the bike team is on hand to help navigate the situation. These partnerships, along with our own trauma-informed and de-escalation training, helps ensure that the library remains a place where every person feels seen, supported, and safe, especially those who may feel unwelcome in other spaces. Our public service and community engagement staff do much more than answer questions and check out books. They plan, prepare, and deliver meaningful programs that bring people together, foster lifelong learning, and strengthen civic connections. Libraries serve as an essential third space in our communities, not home, not work or school, but a refuge where people can gather, feel safe, and find connections. They are transformative places to grow, engage, and belong. From story times in more than 7 languages, summer reading programs, conversation clubs, Death and Age Cafe, and citizens classes, to dynamic events like our Family Resource Fair, Teen Art Show, and End of Life Resource Fair, our programming reflects the diverse needs and interests of Beaverton residents. Drop-in sessions at our Design and Make Makerspace, hands-on digital workshops, and our signature community-wide reading event One Book, One Beaverton create opportunities for people of all ages to connect, share ideas, and participate fully in community life. In fiscal year 24, Beaverton City Library locations hosted over 2,000 programs with a total attendance of close to 50,000 people, a 20% increase over the previous years. These numbers speak not only to the popularity of our programs, but to their growing importance in the lives of the people we serve. At a time when public spaces are increasingly privatized and digital overload fuels anxiety, libraries offer an antidote, a free, welcoming, and enriching environment where people can grow, connect, and find meaning. They can ask questions and get help finding solutions, from navigating a Zoom call to printing a replacement part no longer available from a manufacturer on our 3D printer. Next slide. Our community engagement team includes expert selectors who shape vibrant and meaningful collections with care and intention. Each year they add around 30,000 new items and thoughtfully deselect materials to keep our shelves current, inclusive, and engaging. Guided by principles of diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and access, these librarians ensure that our collections reflect the richness of our community, offering something that speaks to every voice and every story. Their deep expertise is a key reason why Beaverton City Library has the highest circulating collection of print and digital items in the cooperative, circulating 2.7 million items annually. Our community engagement team also extends placemaking beyond our library walls through staff who provide significant programs and partnerships with schools, child cares, nonprofits, and local businesses. We support early literacy in the community by visiting Head Start programs and child care centers to provide story times and drop off rotating collections of books for use in the classroom. In fiscal year 24, we made 1,200 outreach visits and reaching over 28,000 adults and children. In addition to this, we have launched bookmobile services that bring the library to those who can't come to us. On a recent visit to a senior community, one gentleman said, after selecting several new items, "I used to suffer from depression, and this just lights my day. I used to just look at the walls. You saved my life." Next slide. Beaverton is a vibrant, growing community that values responsive, community-centered services, and our libraries reflect that. In 2010, the Murray Shoals Branch Library was established in the Murray Hill area to serve a population rich with families and young readers. At the time, nearly 40% of summer reading participants lived in the area, highlighting a need for a neighborhood library. With the addition of a dedicated children's room in 2015, the branch expanded its role as a welcoming space for story times, programming, and family engagement. Today, it remains one of the most efficient and beloved libraries in the cooperative. Despite operating just 5 days a week with 6.7 FTE, it circulated over 649 physical and digital items last year, ranking just behind the largest libraries in the system. As the closest public library to Mountainside High School, the Murray Shoals branch plays a vital role in serving South Beaverton. It is a powerful example of how Beaverton meets community needs with smart, responsive service. Next slide. As the world becomes increasingly digital, libraries continue to evolve, balancing new technologies with ongoing demand for physical materials. Our materials team ensures that both traditional and innovative items reach our shelves and our patron. Each year, the team processes over 30,000 new items selected by our librarians, handling acquisition, receiving shipments, and creating searchable catalog records so materials can be easily found. In addition to books and media, they also process our growing Library of Things collection, which includes everything from robots and guitars to pressure cookers and pickleball sets. The team checks in over 900,000 items annually, returns them to the shelves, and manages the movement of nearly 300,000 items through the courier system to other libraries. They also process more than 300,000 patron holds for pickups at our locations. Behind the scenes, our material staff make it possible for the community to access what they need, whether it's a bestseller, a board game, or a mobile hotspot. Next slide. Library administration plays a vital role in supporting every program we offer, ensuring that each one is aligned with our overall mission to serve the diverse and evolving needs of the Beaverton community. From budgeting and resource allocation to staff development, community partnerships, and strategic planning, administration provides the foundation that allows our programs to thrive. We work behind the scenes to connect departments, streamline efforts, and make sure every initiative, whether it's story time, a technology class, or a cultural event, supports our shared goal of creating a welcoming, inclusive, and responsive library for all. Library administration not only supports internal programs and services, but also plays a key role in connecting our work to the broader mission of the City of Beaverton. We collaborate closely with other city departments to plan and host community-wide events such as Welcoming Week celebrations, the annual tree lighting, Pride, and one-time engagement opportunities such as supportive housing program held at the main library. These partnerships ensure that the library is not just a standalone service, but an integrated, active participant in citywide efforts to engage residents, build belonging, and meet community needs. Through thoughtful coordination, resource support, and strategic alignment, administration helps ensure programs are impactful, inclusive, and deeply rooted in Beaverton's shared values. Next slide. Trust funds come from donations made to the Beaverton City Library, largely from the former Library Foundation and the Friends of the Beaverton City Library. Thanks to their generosity, we've been able to fund impactful projects such as the creation of our study cubes, the development of our makerspace, and the launch of our bookmobile. Their support also sustains key community programs like summer reading and One Book, One Beaverton. In addition, the Trust Fund helps invest in our greatest resource, our staff, by supporting ongoing professional development and training, including trauma-informed service and de-escalation sessions to help us better navigate our changing world. These opportunities ensure that our team continues to grow, innovate, and provide exceptional service to the Beaverton community. Finally, at the Beaverton City Library, we transform our spaces both inside and outside our buildings into hubs of connection, discovery, and refuge. We're more than just books and buildings. We're places where stories are shared, relationships are built, and lives are enriched. Whether it's a child's first story time, a job seeker's access to technology, a neighbor's experience at a community event, or a senior finding joy through our bookmobile, each moment reflects our shared commitment to serving Beaverton with care, creativity, and purpose. Thank you.
That last note. So for the Friends of the Library, I also noticed that the book fair is coming up soon.
Yes, this month.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
over what, 3 days or
Yeah, so it's over the weekend. The Wednesday night is for teachers, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the bag sale.
There.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if those numbers stay pretty consistent year over year between that, the Friends of the Library, in terms of the funds you see coming back. And what prompted the question was, we were at Goodwill over the weekend, and it was the most popular place in town. There were so many people walking around, which I think is reflective of folks are just trying to make really financially responsible decisions of how they're stretching their dollars. And I imagine it might fluctuate to where you get more interest in book fairs and things like that. So
our book sale, we think, will generate about $40,000. The fall book sale is usually a little bit higher, but yeah, so we expect that it'll continue to generate. Our Friends of the Library are one of the only places that is still accepting books too from people, so a lot of libraries no longer have that ability to accept books on behalf of their friends of libraries. So we get a lot of donations. Like we had some donations from the Portland Art Museum, and we have a whole truckload of DVDs that came to them. So yeah.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And can you talk a little bit about how those funds are rolled back in?
Yeah, so each year they're pledging $100,000, and with that money, we add it to our budget, and then we spend it on things during the year. Like this year, we're spending it on redoing some of the entryway in the main library. But so it just depends. Some of their money goes into their operating expenses, and now that they've combined with the Friends and the Foundation this year merged, and so they're looking at more fundraising type of opportunities, like in a traditional foundation would do. So they're going to be looking for those opportunities now. So expanding beyond the book sales into those like sponsorships and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's on. Just wondering about circulation that is keep increasing. What's the percentage would you say is physical book versus digital?
So digital, we know that digital circulation was going up, but COVID really made that exponentially higher. So our digital circulation, we see that growing each year. Probably it goes up depending. It's probably gone up about 60%, and then our physical circulation is slowly trending downwards. But what we're seeing is that people are using whatever material is available first oftentimes, so they're using both the physical and the digital. And so our overall circulation isn't down as much as it would be, as you would expect. So it's really hanging steady right now, and we're seeing just 2%, 3% increase.
So I noticed when I was trying to check out the digital copy, I would assume that digital copy is readily accessible, and then we can just check it out anytime, but it wasn't.
No.
You have to wait your turn. So I could understand why.
Yeah, so digital licenses are actually more expensive oftentimes than the physical book. And so it works just like you're buying licenses to a copy. So again, you can put it on hold just like a physical book, but it's limited to how many are purchased.
Per library?
Well, all of our digital collections are purchased through WCCLS. So they coordinate all of that purchasing. And when you get a certain amount of holds, it triggers you to buy more copies. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about incorporating robots for customer service and stuff for the future?
Well, at this point, we circulate robots. I mean, you know, there's a lot of technology that's coming out that libraries could potentially have. Like, for instance, you download an app on your phone and you check out your material yourself. Your library's on your phone, you scan the barcode, you take it out with you. Just like those kind of technologies already exist, and they're being explored by libraries. But of course, they're very expensive and they're very new. So yeah.
So many questions about robots. I just want to, for the public record, I'm here for the AI. Let's just be careful in the ways we embrace it. He brought up robots. I don't want robots at my library yet. Would you say that the way that this PowerPoint, is that the org structure, or am I wrong?
No, I think so. A lot of our staff, all of our staff almost are public-facing staff, so their roles are going to be interchangeable. So when we talk about public services, so those staff are going to be doing programs, but community engagement staff are also going to be doing programs. Public service staff will help with outreach. So all of those, even though they're in that org structure, they're going to be doing some similar roles and a lot of overlap.
Okay. One question, and I'll try to figure out how to say this correctly. I know that there had been, there's issues with safety in the library because of the that, I didn't hear you mention like a monitor. I know that something was existed, like how is that going and?
We have a full-time building monitor. I mean, I would say our level of incidents are very low compared to most libraries in urban settings. I think Beaverton does a really good job of communicating and working across departments to make sure that first we have training, and then we have support, and we communicate with each other. And so our incidents are very low at the library.
Yeah, can you help me understand? So I was looking at, and I too agree with some of the comments around the mandated section is very helpful. But can you help me? These are all no, like every single one. So can you help me understand, like, what are the requirements to be part of the WCCLS funding formula, right? Like, can we just open up a library like in this room and call it a library, a room?
No,
or, you know what I'm saying? Like, help me understand the
so
requirements.
there's like certain amount of hours, you need a certain level of staffing. You also would need to ask, can I be part of this? And so you'll need you'll also need building, your own building. So it has its own IGA that requires each partner to follow what's on that IGA, and so it's not as easy as just, I want to be part of this system. You have to meet those requirements. I don't have them right in front of me, but one of the things that we're looking at right now, when you mentioned funding formula, it's a great question. We're going through the funding and governance process, and that is one of the things that will change is how we fund things and how our service areas look, because those are part of that process, is looking at service areas, looking at service populations, looking at the funding formula through different metrics so that it's more equitable.
Because that was kind of part B of that question is not knowing the funding allocation and the kind of formula, are we maximizing that from the county, right? Like if we do more of these things, we get more revenue. Maybe it's not that simple. I don't know. I just I don't have an understanding of that, and I just think it would maybe that's a follow-up question is can we get a high level?
Well, that's a great question, and that's part of the reason we're doing this funding and governance and looking at the funding formula, because it's not as transparent and easy to understand right now. And so going through this process will help us make it more transparent so that we know how that funding formula is being determined. There'll be certain different criteria, and we'll be able to understand that criteria. Like if it's based on your service population, what does that mean? Yeah.
Especially for things that we can change, right? We can't change our service population, but maybe if there's a particular area that's weighted heavily on the funding formula that we could change, that might be something, I think as policymakers, it would be interesting to at least surface so we can understand that, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I will tell you, again, some past council's decision-making that's kind of led to where we are now. The branch library was not in all of the circulation. We weren't part of the formula for over 3 years, and so we had to fund it out of the library general fund, which took a hit all those years that we were doing it, and it was the council that had to lobby WCCLS. We came in, the Aloha Library came in, the Bethany Library came in, and wasn't there one more? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Yeah. So there was West Slope. No, West Slope was in. It might have just been those three. So we all kind of came in at the same time. But running that branch was very expensive from the general fund, and us in Hillsborough contributed significantly more from the general fund to the libraries than some of the other library branches do. And so the mayors have been pushing the county elected board to say there needs to be service minimums, because some of us when we overproduce in Beaverton, Tigard closed their library 2 days a week a few years ago. Well, where do you think everyone goes? And so other people start impacting us and how we do it. So I just would say that that is part of the reason. And Kim on our behalf is in the WCCLS group that's relooking at that, because also when you look at our service boundary, we are absorbing a lot of unincorporated users. Councilor Teeter.
Thanks, Kim. You mentioned when you responded to Councilor Kimmy that digital licenses are more expensive than hard copy books. Does that include the cost of like transferring items throughout the system or inventory space, building space, or is it just
That's
item to
just
item?
the item to item. So there are those, those other costs that you're not thinking about, right? That go along with the physical costs, or the physical items.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like long-term or comprehensive costs, like what might be more affordable. And that's just kind of where my head is at when I ask that question too. Another question I've got is an item I've seen in some other departments, but I don't see it mentioned here in the library, and I'm wondering how much you do of it. Do you all go after many grants or write many grants of your own?
We always get a ready-to-read grant from the state library, which is about $24,000. That's used for like early literacy. Each public library in Oregon gets it depending on the population of youth they serve. We went after a grant to get the bookmobile. So that was a grant that we got from the state library as well. So it depends on the grant. Some of the staff time involved in the grant, and it has to be something that really is going to benefit us for that staff time involved in writing the grant, and also like reporting out on the grant can be very time consuming, and we don't have a lot of professional grant writers on our staff either, so that makes it challenging as well. But you know, we're looking for, as we're working with the Friends of the Library, we're looking for potential grants that we could go out, that they could go out for on behalf of the library, and that way they could be the responsible parties for the grant.
Okay, no, that's really helpful, and having them as a partner is really helpful too. I just feel like you all do so much really incredible work in the community that a lot of funders out there would love to support, and so I would hate for us to leave some funding opportunities on the table because we don't have the right person in the library team to write the grant, but I think that there could be some options there in the future. Yeah, thank you. That's all I've got.
I've been pushing the city manager to think about a grants position, maybe not this budget cycle, but I think it's a really important position for us as we're going to have to kind of change and think about our funding mechanism. Councilor Tivnon? I do have one more question. In here in the library administration, it has 2 FTEs, but it's $44,000. Is there another number? Is this FTE wrong, or is that's the cost of 2 FTE? When I 444, yeah, 444,000 for 2 FTEs. Yeah.
Yes.
When I do the calculations, and I get this is maybe a more senior position, but this seems like it's wrong.
We're double checking
Yeah.
that. It seems a little bit on the high side.
Okay. Okay. All right, you earned your cookie.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining
Yay.
us. All right, Tim. We're gonna do. She doesn't want a cookie. She doesn't have to have one. She gets a high five. Yeah. Yeah. She gets the one with the raisin.
I'll get on a roll. Mayor, councilors, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to talk to you a little bit tonight about our Public Works team. First of all, the general fund supports a very small part, but a very important part of the Public Works mission. I think everyone here has heard me say why I love being in Public Works and having the opportunity to lead this Public Works team is because I get to support the people that work behind the scenes. You know things are going well in Public Works when you don't think about us at all. And today I have an opportunity to share a few thoughts about a part of that team that often works behind the scenes, but whose impact is felt every single day, the Facilities and Landscaping Division. I want to start by asking a few questions. What do people think about when they're considering opening a business in a city? What makes people want to live in a city? What makes people feel safe, welcomed, and cared for? In other words, what makes the city feel like home? It's not just about buildings and plants. It's about stewardship. It's about creating spaces that support the mission of every department and the quality of life of every resident. And that's why we exist. We create and maintain spaces that serve people. You may not know this, but we maintain 21 public buildings that comprise over 450,000 square feet. This, of course, includes maintaining HVAC systems, fire safety equipment, plumbing, electrical systems, building interiors and exteriors. I'm just going to keep listing things now. And we do all this with just 7 very skilled employees. But our facilities are more than brick and mortar. They're the physical foundation of public services, city halls, libraries, community centers, police stations, public works yards. Our division ensures these spaces are safe, functional, and ready for the work of serving the public. Without clean, well-maintained, and efficiently run facilities, employees can't do their jobs. Residents can't get services, and trust in local government begins to erode. And isn't that really what our job is in local government, which is to protect the public's trust? In facilities, we're the quiet partner in every success story that happens in a public building. We also connect people to places. We have 6 people whose job it is to maintain the great landscaping we have at all the public facilities, including all the remote sites. We maintain the city park, of course, and also the splash pad. This includes maintenance of over 70 acres of manicured and unmanicured landscaping. This includes turf maintenance, snow and ice removal, maintenance of plazas, benches, splash pad, fountains. We also prune over 150 trees in our public spaces. In the past, this crew was combined with the street landscaping crew, but last year we separated them to better align the duties and to combine their efforts with the facilities team. And the street crew still maintains street trees and median strips. Our work goes beyond aesthetics. Green spaces, lawns, trees, planters, downtown flower baskets, the splash pad, the playground equipment, they're not just decorative. They help families create memories. They create a welcoming downtown core. Practically, they reduce heat and improve air quality. They support mental health and community pride. They deter vandalism and crime by creating spaces that feel cared for and feel respected. A well-kept landscape says someone cares about this place, and you belong here. And when we design with intention, choosing the right plant for the right place, using water wisely, maintaining access and visibility, we're creating safe, sustainable, and beautiful environments that reflect the values of our city. And speaking of our city's values, I want to speak to you about our beautification and livability efforts. In the past, this was elegantly called the Metro Grant. Have you noticed how clean Beaverton, especially downtown area, stays? The lack of graffiti, the lack of trash. It's hard to notice something that doesn't exist, but in the end, that's Public Works. We have 2 people whose job it is to keep Beaverton looking inviting and beautiful. Keeping the library entrance cleared, city park welcoming, clearing trash, painting graffiti. We average painting over 1 to 2 pieces of graffiti a day. And we even remove shopping carts. Our record day for picking up shopping carts was 90, by the way. And we store these carts at our yard at 160th, and the local businesses know to come pick these up so that we serve the local businesses in that way as well. Creating a welcoming and cared for environment for people to work and play. That's what this team does. They patrol, but they also respond to requests. They work collaboratively with Bike Patrol. And I got to tell you, if you ever get a chance to go around and work with this team, first of all, you'll learn a lot about our city. But secondly, you're going to meet 2 people who love doing their job, who love doing their part to keep Beaverton clean. We also protect the city's investment. Buildings and landscapes are major assets. We protect these assets through preventative maintenance, responsive repairs, and long-term planning, like the facilities master plan. Every dollar spent maintaining our infrastructure wisely saves many more down the road. We help ensure taxpayer money is spent efficiently and that public assets last longer and serve better. We also contribute directly to sustainability and climate goals through energy efficiency, sustainable landscaping practices, and material reuse. And we support resilience. During emergencies, our department becomes essential infrastructure, whether it's preparing a shelter, removing a fallen tree, ensuring backup power is available, ensuring HVAC systems protect vulnerable populations during heat or smoke or cold events. We are a key part of the city's resilient strategy. The systems we maintain and the spaces we care for help keep the city operating when it matters most. So why do we exist? We exist to care for the spaces that care for people. We create environments that are safe, efficient, sustainable, and welcoming. We protect the city's assets, support every department, and help shape how people feel about the place they call home. We may not always be front and center, but the work of the facilities and landscaping team is always essential, and we're proud to serve in that role. And now Travis is going to give you a quick discussion about the central plant operation.
Thank you. Travis Taylor, Public Works Manager. One of the larger contracts managed under the facilities umbrella is the central plant, located basically directly, well, I would say behind us, but that would be that way. The central plant operations are carried out by a third-party contractor that provides heating and cooling services for the round. The Beaverton building itself houses the actual plant, consisting of 2 boilers, 2 chillers, 3 cooling towers located on the roof. The RESER, the Beaverton Central Garage, 24-hour fitness, Watson Building, and the Crescent Promenade are all connected to the plant, reaching close to 500,000 square feet of conditioned space. The contractor is responsible for the maintenance and operation, replacement of equipment that has either failed and or reached its end of useful life. The highest efficiencies are achieved through careful oversight and management of the central plant.
We're keeping our presentation short.
Yeah, and I think with that, we'll.
Okay. I've never heard someone maintaining strips of landscaping sound so sexy and awesome before. So thank you for that. I don't know how many revisions you and ChatGPT did to come up with that, but it was spot on. As someone that works in the building full time, it's definitely noticeable to me how clean it is. And it's one of the things I brag quite often about. And it's one of the things that I'm pushing SHS to consider long-term funding of those 2 FTEs, because it does cut, like the graffiti, homeless trash, picking up carts, like that is an expense that the city is absorbing to help meet our regional goals. And the same I didn't mention with the library monitor, but that's another FTE that I'm pushing our SHS to consider wrapping in along with the bike fund. Those 3 jobs are something our general fund is paying for that contribute to the reduction of homelessness and the functional zero of where we are right now. So I think, at least from me and the council, we recognize how clean it is, and we get to take credit for that. So thank you for the hard work. Councilor Teeter, or Councilor Hartmeyer-Brigg.
Thank you. Tim and Travis, I had no idea how small your team is. Like, I don't know, I wrote a note to you and I said, how do they do all of this? Sorry, Mayor, it won't be 4 minutes, but I am gonna say thank you, because I really had no, like, I've seen this budget many times, right, for past years, but I just like the concept and the storytelling, right, of the impact on our city is massive. And so thank you, because I just am kind of mind blown right now. I noticed that when I was reading through, I just didn't quite understand. And I think part of it is, right, I mean, I know we use contract resources to help with certain other things that are managed under your team, but I think you have a very visible team for it only being 13 people. And that's just showing like how much you are really making Beaverton like this very healthy, safe community, you know, and I know this is partnership across the whole city, but the story you're telling is just very impactful.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Travis. You said a couple things when you first started. You said designing with intention, and you also mentioned how some of the work can deter crime. I think those are really important and valuable pieces of the work that you do that are not what most people would think of when they think of public works. just a beautiful city, is a city that people want to respect and keep clean themselves too. So I appreciate that work. I think you mentioned tree planting, and I think our NACs have done some really great jobs and partnerships with Public Works. So I'm wondering aloud or thinking to myself, like, are there ways that we can work more with NACs or with community organizations to do more work like that, where it's not incredible increase on staff workload, but helps us do even more of what we already want to do. I don't think that there's a question there. It's just kind of a thought line that I'm thinking through. And then you also mentioned that the record for removing shopping carts was 90, which is pretty incredible. And I'm thinking of cost recovery here. This isn't something that I'm saying I definitely want to do, but I think I've seen other communities do it where they will charge a business for when they have to pick up their carts, and it's encouraged those businesses to put on wheel locks or something on their carts that keep them on site. So if there's some way we can encourage businesses to take accountability for their own product to keep it from wandering off, it could be a discussion for the future, but I really appreciate the work you all do. It is very noticeable. I encourage people to reach out to you all a lot for graffiti removal and things like that, so keep up the good work.
Thank you. Does the IGA program come with any revenue? Because I see it's mandated.
What program?
The Metro, the IGA.
It does not bring in a revenue, no.
Okay, so it's mandated by Metro, but maybe that's a, yeah.
It was funded originally. A $500,000 for this program. But it was like, once we started cleaning up, we couldn't just go back the other way. So it is not mandated by Metro per se, but, so that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to get them to understand. They started funding something, and they can't now be like, well, Beaverton's clean. You can't have, and so it's one of the ongoing things.
That's helpful, thanks. And then my second question is, have we thought about focusing on the operations? Have we thought about ways to reduce the impact of some of the landscape maintenance services requirements, like by, working more with Oregon natives or pollen, stuff like that, that require less maintenance? I know that's a capital budget, so you're moving one from the other, but at least it's a kind of a one-time or a less often expense. Have you guys thought about that? And if so, can you talk a little bit about that?
I'd like to speak to that.
That's a really good question. We explore water-wise landscapes, turf reduction in places that it obviously makes sense. Native plantings that are more drought-resistant, drought-tolerant are all things that we look at fairly regularly. And we have a turf, I would say, reduction program, but it's not that formal. It's kind of written out on some scratch paper, but areas that we're looking to reduce the turf footprint, just so we don't have to irrigate it, fertilize it, all the things that go into turf management. But it's a good question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. So, thank you.
Do I get a cookie? All right, thank you.
ready to roll. What I find interesting is like which department heads bring a friend, which ones didn't, who decides who was in the number 2 seat. I'm just keeping a mental note of going at it alone. Head honcho, you get 2 cookies. All right, let's start off with financial services.
All right. So the finance department, we take our stewardship of the public funds very seriously. We're responsible for ensuring that the resources are available for our operating departments to do the things they need to do to support and maintain this great city that we get to live in. Being good stewards of the public funds helps us maintain our public trust. And also it's the transparency thing. We want to make sure that if you guys don't understand it, then our public's not going to understand it. So we want to make sure that we are providing good information. We spend most of our time in the finance department chasing down documentation and researching transactions, doing budget and audit. Those are the biggest things. Our primary goal is to be boring, because a boring finance department is a good thing. Pretty much everything that we do in the finance department, with very few exceptions, is required by some law, either federal, state, or local. In our finance administration, that supports the smooth functioning of the department. We do policy development, compliance, training and development. Fiscal sustainability work is really managed through our administration programs. And so with that, we've been doing cost studies, fee studies, revenue audits, and we continue to tick off the various items that came out of the Fiscal Sustainability Subcommittee and the work that they did. We also, within our administration, is where payroll resides. So we manage payroll for over 600 employees. We do this every other week. We have 2 people that, well, 1.6 people that process payroll, with about another maybe quarter oversight of a manager. And there are significant reporting requirements with payroll. Just for example, we do over 800 W-2s on an annual basis. We also, in the finance department, manage procurement. So in our procurement team, we I needed a break anyway. In our procurement team, so annually we manage about 40 to 50 RFPs. We get 85 to 100 new contracts while managing about 175 to 200 ongoing contracts. We put out the purchase orders. There's about 800 to 900 purchase orders on an annual basis. And we manage the purchasing cards, where there's about 4,000 to 5,000 transactions on an annual basis on our purchasing cards. We also, vendor management, surprisingly, takes a significant amount of time. Vendors change address. We need to make sure their insurance is in force and get those updated on an annual basis. So there's a lot of work that we need to maintain our vendor database. For example, the county may have 10 different addresses. Because it goes to each different department, we need to make sure that we maintain those so that our departmental staff don't get confused on where to send their invoices and make their payments. We also, within our purchasing division, we manage accounts receivable. So we send out the invoices for people who owe us money, and we manage the performance bonds for the city. So the capital improvement programs that require a performance bond, we take those in, we file them, we maintain them, and then we have to release them when the projects are completed. In our operations section, that's what contains our utility billing team, but since they are not funded with the general fund, we're not going to talk about them today. But in our operations, we do our budget development, implementation, and monitoring. We manage a complex $500 million budget with over 30 funds that are all intertwined and must remain balanced. And we, every year, submit for a Government Finance Officers Association, which is the National Finance Officers Association. We call them GFOA. We submit for what they call the Distinguished Budget Award, and we get that every year. So we do a great document that outlines our budget and ticks all the boxes, and we get our award. We also, in operations, have business licensing. So we manage licenses for about 5,000 businesses with an annual renewal process, and that's really managed by just one person. We, in operations, that's where accounting sits. That's a our larger team outside of utility billing, of course. And in the accounting team, they manage our financial audit. Our financial audit takes between 6 and 9 months for us to complete every year. We continue to receive an unmodified opinion from our auditors, which is the highest, best opinion available. We maintain our general ledger, so that's as people need to spend money in different line items, we make sure those are available for them. We also reconcile various different accounts to make sure that things are getting paid for out of the appropriate accounts, and that everything's where we expect it to be and matching with the budget. And we implement and maintain our internal controls, which safeguards our assets and ensures the accuracy of our financial information. And internal controls are really important to the city. They mitigate risk and they ensure that we remain accountable to our documented processes and our approval requirements. And this does get audited every year. They look at our internal controls when they're doing our financial audit. So we need to make sure that we can continue to maintain good documentation of what those internal controls are and that they actually match our processes. We also, within our accounting or within our operations, we have accounts payable where we pay the bills. There's also a significant amount of work that they do there as far as we do the 1099 tax reporting, and there's other reports that come out of, bless you, that come out of the accounts payable team. And our operations also runs the central desk down here and the passports function. And that's really is the finance department. So if you had questions on finance department, I'm happy to go there, or I can go right into the non-departmental.
So I asked a similar question about grants to the library, but you have here grant management and grant support. Can you talk more about the grant support that you offer, either within your own finance department or to other departments? Can you talk more about that role?
So within the finance department, we are responsible to ensure all the reporting and financial reporting is done accurately and on time. So we do manage all those grants that the city has. We recently did an inventory to try and figure out what all of those are. But we have to work with the program managers to ensure that those reports are done and that the financial aspects of those reports are correct. And we've also embedded ourselves in other departments that have a significant amount of grants that we're having trouble managing those, to make sure that we sat in the department and helped create processes around those to make sure that to overall lessen our needs, the need for us on the back end. So we provide training. We wrote a grant policy. So all grants now need to go through a process before they're applied for. So we've done a lot to tighten up our grants to make sure they're managed appropriately going forward.
Just a quick question. Do we have a separate designated person for passport services?
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay.
One person that, and we're training a backup for that. All right, so the other thing I was asked to discuss with the mayor and council today is our non-departmental budget. Because it doesn't belong to a department, I get to talk to you about that. Overall, non-departmental is generally for expenses that are not specific to a department. For an example would be our citywide memberships, such as the National League of Cities or the League of Oregon Cities, bank fees, which you can't necessarily say this department's going to have the bank fees every year. It kind of switches depending on, you know, where they are. So our bank fees, we are charged various different bank fees, whether it be for use of credit cards or it's mostly use of credit cards where they come in. There are also a couple of separate bank accounts that would be designated to a particular program, but we manage all those bank fees as non-departmental. We don't know what the activity level is going to be on credit cards. And so we couldn't just say it goes in this department. We just charge all the bank fees to non-departmental because it changes year to year, and it would be very difficult to manage that budget by having to transfer money amongst departments or from non-departmental to a department specific to manage it. So non-departmental is also where we have our reserves and our contingency, so which is a pretty large number. And then we also budget for transfers to other funds. So the funds that support general funds, such as we have a facilities fund, so we would transfer money from the general fund to the facilities fund, say for Griffith, to manage the court, because the court is general fund funded, so the space that they have would need to, that funding needs to get transferred so that they can manage that facility. We also, for example, the insurance fund, which pays for medical insurance for all the different departments. So we collect the money in the general fund, and then we transfer it to the insurance fund to pay for those bills. Another example would be ITSD. So that is an internal service fund. They reside in their own fund, but there is a significant amount of work that they do for the general fund. So we send some general fund money over there to support the work that they do for us. And then the final one I wanted to bring forward is debt service. Debt service by government accounting has its own fund for each debt issuance. So whatever fund is responsible to make those payments, think the Public Safety Center, that is a general fund responsibility. We transfer the money from the general fund to the debt service fund to make those payments and to manage the debt. The other programs within non-departmental would be the central plant operations, which you heard about earlier from our friend Travis. And then we, like I said, the reserves and contingencies, we have the E-Suite property management, and there's a very, very small amount in there for shelter facility maintenance that's not covered by the owner of the facility. And that's what I have.
Thank you. I think I get the gist from how you're describing it, but when I look at like slide 54 where it shows like the security system operating software licensing, so there's like a fee from all the departments that then gets pulled here to cover the expense of that versus it like this living in the ISD fund?
So what we do is we have certain costs that we allocate across various funds and programs, and so that's what you're seeing there is we take, some of it can be directly billed, as we understand that only one department uses that, but when you're looking at, so maybe you're going to allocate across all departments and funds based on the number of computers, laptops. And so you have to look at how many reside and where they reside, and then you transfer the money to cover it.
And so instead of like for example, I would think that that line item would live in the IT department fund, or like in their budget, but does it live here because it's like the central collection?
So it collects, so the general fund would collect from general funded programs, and then we send money over to the ISD fund so that they can pay for all the things that are required to support the general fund funded programs. So if they, for example, the constituent resource management program maybe it's paid for in the ISD program, but somebody has to send them the money to do that. So we allocate it based on who uses it. And then based on who uses it, if it's general fund, then it gets transferred over to ISD. If it's a library fund, it gets from the library fund over to ISD.
Okay. I'm just,
It's a complicated,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for validating my
Yes.
confusion. Well, just because I'm also like, well, why wouldn't, think of the constituents, or why does that not just live in the budget of that thing? But it's because of the service is happening from the ISD side. They're managing the software, but it has to be paid for from the end user, basically.
Correct. Yes, so we look at who's using, for example, you have fleet, or HR is a really easy one to do. So you take your HR department and you may allocate it across all the funds based on the number of FTEs that exist in each fund.
Mm-hmm.
HR is a general fund program, but they service other funds. So those other funds would transfer money to the general fund to cover their HR services.
So it's like a chargeback model.
Yes.
Okay, but so then what? Cost
It's cost
allocation.
allocation.
Cost allocation. And so you use the non-departmental fund as the collector.
Correct.
And then pushes it where it needs to go.
Right, so you see in the revenue side, you'll see transfers in, that's money that comes from other departments that are paying for general fund services. And then in non-departmental, you see transfers out, which are the expenses of the general fund to pay for the services of the other funds.
Okay, thank you.
For the, both the central plant and the e-suites, it's looking like those are costs, but those are generating revenue that is not being captured here, right?
That's correct. The revenue is not shown here. It'd be on that revenue slide.
Sure. So I guess maybe this is an ask of Jenny as we prepare for like these conversations. Like I think it would helpful be to me, maybe other people as well, to know what those are and like what like from a line item basis. Because I look at this, I'm like, oh, the central plant's costing us $758,000, but that's not true, right? Like it is costing us that in this display model, but it's not costing us that.
There is a revenue offset, yes.
Yeah, so I think that would be helpful for us to understand that.
So yeah, there is a revenue offset with passports
Yeah.
and with the central plant.
Exactly, like some of these things there's more to the story than just the cost. So I think that'd be a helpful addition for us. Thank you.
But the central plant will cost us about.
The largest users of the central plant would be the city
Okay,
by square footage.
okay. So I guess there's no follow-up question then. There is some revenue offset from external non-city users.
Correct.
They're paying their share, but we are also using heat and things like that. Okay.
The more people that hook up to the central plant, the lower the cost goes. The problem is there's not a lot of people hooked to the central plant, so we are bearing a huge portion of it. Councilor Hassan?
Yes, I'm gonna go back, please. You said something like there's one person that does the business license expenses. What does using technology in some of these areas look like to help offset the cost of these services?
Ooh, wait, we're going into a technology question? Just no bots. Okay, just tracking.
So we have a variety of technological tools, and right now the city is exploring looking at consolidating those. So right now we do have a business license program that helps us. So there is technology that does a lot of the work for us. So that's why we can do it with one person. But we are also just embarking on a business license study, which would maybe provide some more information on better technology or more different technology, different options. So that's yet to come. But we are always looking. So for example, in procurement, we 2 years ago reduced 1 FTE to get software so that we could better manage our contracts. And that's been a great tool for us, not to say that we don't need the person too, but the tool to manage the contracts and the insurance piece of it has been a huge time saver for us. So we're always looking for better technology to help us do our jobs more efficiently and more accurately.
All right, you survived. Cookie time it is. All right, who is next? Patricia?
Nope, IT.
Oh, Travis. Did you use ChatGPT to write all your talking points about AI taking over the city?
If I had ChatGPT do my update, would I get 3 cookies?
Of course.
Okay, would all have raisins?
They would all have raisins.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Travis Lucky, the city's Director of Information Technology and Services. So ITS has 32 FTEs, 6 divisions or programs, and about 32 subprograms. Almost every service we provide our community, from public safety to clean water to permitting, depends on technology. That also includes the AV equipment and connectivity to support hybrid meetings like this one. Today, I will describe as briefly as possible how our IT organization quietly powers the numerous operations that keep our city running. ITS was a division within finance until 2023, when, as a part of the city's form of government change, it was established as its own department. When you hear it referred to as ISD, that was the old name. When it was a division. Now it is ITS. Let's see, as an internal service department, our success is measured by how well we empower everyone else in the city to achieve their goals and objectives. For instance, ITS implements systems that save staff time by automating manual tasks. As another example, we proactively replace staff PCs before they get too old, which reduces outages that stop work or slowness that hurts day-to-day productivity for staff throughout the city. It is our goal to be a leader in responsible technology adoption, helping the city to benefit from innovative approaches while mindfully managing risks. It was this approach that recently guided the creation of our artificial intelligence and cloud smart strategies. Looking for a code word to say, next slide, please. The web services team, is that, oh, I can't see that far away, manages the city's public and internal web resources. A major initiative right now, in partnership with the Equity Office and the City Attorney's Office, is a comprehensive review and revision of all public digital content to ensure ADA, or Americans with Disabilities Act, compliance. This is in response to an unfunded federal mandate requiring cities to have all publicly accessible content comply with a rigorous new standard by April 24 of next year. Beaverton has thousands of pages, documents, and posts to review. Every image needs alt text. Underlining can only be for hyperlinks. Text and backgrounds need contrast minimums, and a lot more. This also applies to all social media, including posts created by just about everyone in this room. So training will be a very important part of this project as well. GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems, and the GIS services team provides mapping and asset management tools for staff and the public. When I say assets here, I mean things like traffic signals, streetlights, storm drains, and water pump stations. Tens of thousands of them, grouped in over 300 data sets managed by this team. The GIS team recently completed a major upgrade to our largest GIS platform, and our plan is to migrate the whole thing to the cloud when its next upgrade is due. The IT administration program includes my position, our information security analyst, and shared expenses for the department, like office furniture. The program focuses on strategic planning, IT governance, IT security, and budgeting. Although cybersecurity is a part of every job in ITS, in 2024 we established our first dedicated IT security position to better protect our digital assets from cyber threats. The Enterprise Application Services Program manages about 75 in-house applications, 50 off-the-shelf enterprise software platforms, and many integrations that underpin city operations. Gesundheit. Our IT project management office is also run by this team. It provides project management, business systems analysis, and organizational change management. The Enterprise Applications team provides secure and reliable IT solutions, and it also has staff who specialize in the operations of each department so they can provide valuable solutions and insights. This team is currently working with HR, finance, and payroll on the early stages of a major enterprise resource planning, or ERP project, which Debbie alluded to. This is a big one. It will replace dozens of outdated applications, provide modern features like a mobile interface, improve security and privacy, and save staff time. The IT operations team provides cloud, server, and network management. It also includes our IT service desk, which provides technical support to city staff. The team is responsible for the support and maintenance of the city's 1,200 PCs and laptops, 85 servers, 470 mobile devices, and about 150 productivity applications. A major initiative within IT operations right now is to migrate the city's data center from the Griffith Park building to the Public Safety Center. Our data center houses the city's electronic data and physical servers, and it requires specialized cooling, power, connectivity, and security. The Master Facilities Plan has us vacating Griffith Park, which is the location of our data center and the hub of the fiber optic network that links all city facilities. The Public Safety Center is the best location, but it needs power, cooling, and infrastructure to be built out, and then the migration itself will be very complex. The new technology program does not have any FTEs. It contains the replacement budget for employee PCs, peripherals, servers, and network infrastructure. This is my last slide, so I'd like to provide a brief overview of things that take the most time for ITS. First is technical support and service requests for city staff. We receive 600 to 700 tickets per month, including break fix and configuration changes. Some of those tickets require complex workflow and logic changes that take days to complete. Second is maintenance and patching for the city's numerous systems and applications. We have thousands of devices and hundreds of applications, which results in a huge volume of updates that need to be tested and deployed each month. Third is proactive replacements of desktops, laptops, servers, and network equipment. Hundreds of devices need to be replaced each year as they reach end of life. It takes a lot of time to configure and test updates and then to coordinate upgrades with the users who will be impacted if there needs to be maintenance downtime. To wrap up, ITS works to be a valuable partner in helping the city achieve great things for the community, and I hope you've gotten a sense today for how we make that happen.
I think I know the answer, but I'm just gonna, when you said
robots?
75 applications, I like about took. Is that what the ERP work is hoping?
Not all 75, but dozens. There would be dozens of applications replaced by the ERP.
I don't know what your experience is, but like, what is the average in other cities in terms of number of applications being used to run a city?
Yeah, I would say we're in the zone here.
Okay.
You could spend a lot of time trying to determine how you define an application. Okay. Is an access database an application? Is a spreadsheet an application if a department uses it? And so I think we're in the zone. We do have more in-house built custom applications than most of our peer cities. Neutral. It's purpose built. So the things that we have built do exactly what we built them for. So they can be very efficient. They don't do many of the things that modern systems do right out of the box. They don't have all sorts of bells and whistles. We've only invested in building the core functionality we need, and it's a lot to maintain. So we're in the business of maintaining what's called technical debt and trying to keep all of these custom applications up to date with security updates, underlying technology that is no longer supported by vendors, and now we have to refactor the whole thing. And so that maintenance burden actually slows us down over time. If you have too much of that custom software you're supporting, you get really hung up in maintenance and can't focus on delivering new systems and services and analytical insights that help the city achieve its work.
So when I say 75 applications gives me, what others think, but like what is a target for a city? Is that more in line?
Fewer. Yeah, centralization and consolidation is generally a trend, and it's a good thing because you can focus, you can go deeper. We can develop deeper expertise in a smaller set of systems. Staff don't have to learn dozens of different interfaces to get through a single day. So they can also develop deeper expertise in a smaller set of solutions. So it is easier to, I think, support and maintain a smaller set.
I am pro-technology, just cautiously and carefully. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for the question.
I didn't see in your in the notes, how do you support I guess this finance through the procurement, right? When they go out, I'm presuming you do things like cybersecurity reviews.
Yes.
I assume you own your own suppliers, but like every supplier is a technology supplier, right? Every supplier is using AI right now. Every supplier needs to go through security. So did I just not include that and you guys do that or?
As a part of several different people in ITS support different pieces of that. So as a part of the purchasing of a new solution, there's a review by our team as well as the city attorney's office for various things in their contract, in their privacy policy, and in the underlying technology itself. We have our security analyst has a process that he works through in vetting the potential technology or solutions that are being procured, and he produces a report that identifies risks. And similarly, the city attorney's office will help identify risk inherent in the contract. And so those we feed to the purchaser or the requester or the department head involved in that project, so they can make a business determination: are these risks acceptable in order to move forward, or are these risks that the city and this vendor should work more closely to try and mitigate before we move forward?
Yeah, no, that's helpful to think. Do you guys manage the kind of post implementation part of that? End of life of a contract when the supplier might have some of our residential data, right, and to perform their work. Are we following up to make sure they're destroying that or getting rid of it or segmenting it in its particular area? I'm assuming, is that your team?
Yes, again, in partnership with the city attorney's office. We work really closely on those things. And another important element related to that is ensuring that if we choose to part ways with a vendor that has city data, they will provide that data to us in a usable form.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
You said migration will be very complex.
Of the data center, yes.
The vault.
Yes. Well, you mentioned Vault. Yeah, so the Vault is a related project. Under the ground by Griffith Park is where that hub of the fiber optic network is. That one's going to be very complex.
So, because we have planned, the future that we've been talking about, we have to move to there. Complex length and time, I just want to hear ballpark, what kind of complex you're talking about?
There are numerous parties involved in that migration project. We don't own, the city doesn't even own the fiber that we use. A lot of it, I see Dan pressing his button, so you're welcome to jump in on that one too.
You've got at it. I think there's a lot down there, and part of the project is identifying who it belongs to and making sure that they're a participant financially and operationally, and helping us decide, does this migrate or does it need to be somewhere else? But you've got technology around traffic signals, fiber optics, serving residents, kind of broadband, that kind of thing. Part of the project needs to be evaluating what's active, and what, the businesses that have put things down there, the other entities, the partner agencies, making sure that they want to move in. We're scoping it now. I think we're expecting it'll take millions. It may not all be city millions, and it'll probably take years. And so that's a key part of moving on from Griffith, if that is something we choose to do, but at least having that option.
Right, the reason that I asked was, I think we talked about this since I was talking about it. Eventually we have to move on the floodplain. So I don't know how protected it is with the flood, but that was on my mind, and it's gonna be millions. Coordination, complex, maybe something needs to be starting to work on. That was my question.
No, I appreciate the question, and pleased to report this morning was the kickoff meeting with our design vendor. We've contracted with a vendor who we're working with on designing the data center piece of this migration, and so work is now officially underway as of a few hours ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think he reads my mind. That's the problem. Exactly. And come back to AI. We talk about, we kind of joke around a lot, ChatGPT, whatever. Do we have a policy in regards to?
Yeah, we do.
Because it came out and it implies.
Really? Months ago? Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know. Sorry.
There was an implicit pop quiz in my update here, apparently.
Okay. Well, I'll read it. Thank you.
Give me the cookie back. No, I'm just yeah, don't raise reason.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit more on that since I know there's interest. Our AI strategy in a single sentence is to be a leader in responsible AI technology adoption. So be a leader as in it's here and there's tremendous value, incredible efficiency. It can help with creativity. It can help with quality. If it's used mindfully and if we manage a number of fairly significant risks. Privacy of data that we enter, depending on the system, can't be assured. Validity of the facts that it produces are time and time again wrong or inaccurate or sound good, but in fact are misleading. And so we're really working to make the best use of these capabilities while managing those risks. So we created a policy last year, conducted a training for citywide staff, published resources on our intranet site for city staff to get more familiar with the nuances of AI services. I should also say AI is not really new in Beaverton. We've been using it for years in areas ranging from cybersecurity to spam filtering to spell check, right? It's generative AI in the last couple of years. It's really taken off and is moving and developing very quickly. And we're trying to balance riding that wave and getting those benefits while also not splashing in head first and hitting our head on the bottom of the ocean. And I think we're doing well. I've heard good feedback. Someone earlier mentioned that there is a pilot program going on with Microsoft's generative AI tool. We have Copilot. We have 40 users piloting that and giving feedback. Actually, just yesterday, it's a 4-month pilot, and I sent a survey out to those users. And when the questions were coming up an hour ago about this, I looked to see survey results. And so it's not complete, but I can say the early responses, that survey I just sent out to our pilot users yesterday, in terms of value, number 1 was content creation, number 2 was productivity that's being reported by the pilot users, and the number 1 drawback was inaccurate outputs. So no surprises there, but we're starting to get data from our own staff on where the value and potential drawbacks might be.
Thank you, Travis. I've got one comment and one question. One, I just want to give a shout out and share some love for the GIS team. I feel like it's probably pretty rare that the GIS team would get like some recognition from City Council.
That's great.
I use the online web services with the city quite a bit, and we provide those services that a lot of communities are not able to provide. So they do a really good job with that work.
Oh, that's wonderful feedback.
Several of the other comments have touched on my question, starting with Councilor Hassan and the conversation about applications. And I was going to ask, like, what is considered an application? And you touched on that a little bit. Definition is a little variable. I think one of the things that would help me in the future, and I've talked with city manager some about this too, and we've got a lot of tech needs for new programming. Like, we updated our permitting software a couple years ago. We might have some pretty other major tech needs, and it could help me to have some sort of IT strategic plan or master plan for how we can plan for funding those in the future, since they're such major financial investments. It looks like you might have something to say about that.
No, I appreciate that. We last year hired a third party to come and do a comprehensive IT assessment of end-to-end IT operations that function within the city. And the output of that we used as a key input in the creation of an IT strategic plan. So we have a 2025 to 2028 IT strategic plan that highlights some of these things, including in particular modernization of a lot of our legacy applications. Integration and consolidation is a big part of that. The ERP for HR, finance, and payroll is the single biggest project that we will be working on as a part of that plan, but there are many others as well.
Is that done? Did I miss that, or is it almost done?
No, that is done. Internally, we're already tracking against it.
Oh, great. Well, thanks. Jenny, I would love to see that if that's something we can. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to nerd it up and read the IT master plan? All right. I do want to say, though, Travis, that hiring you and elevating the position to the executive team was a pretty monumental step for the city under the city manager's leadership. And it really did put what the council has been talking about as far as technology in-house, where the city manager and the team are using it. The city manager and I were talking today that when we went through the Bloomberg experience, they had different tracks that you could be on. And we both wanted to be on the technology track, but we don't really have the technology. We're getting now, but at the time, we didn't have a lot of the systems to do that. And so this is a positive step in the right direction. And I would say that communities want cities to use technology, but they gristle when they think about funding technology. So this is something we're going to have to think about in the future, from our police, the cars. You know, there's a lot of things that are going to require technology, which of course is money and funding. So the IT master plan is helpful in doing that, but I also don't want to miss the opportunity that the professionalism of your department has gone exponentially up under your leadership. And you guys have the internal responsibility of customer service that just wasn't really there before. And, you know, we interface. Nathan on my team is one of the pilot users of AI, and I would say we have to fact check a lot when we use it because it doesn't produce sometimes the right thing, so it does take a lot of oversight. But I think you're heading in the right direction, and I just want to thank you for that. It's going to help us do things. And we use some of the 75 applications that Travis and I have politely argued back and forth about I want to continue to use. So I think it's challenging with a city that's so large with different needs to narrow it down and focus. So just cut all the other ones, but Calendly, I really like that, and some of the ones we use. But everyone else can consolidate. So I appreciate that. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much.
2 cookies.
All right.
You don't even have to eat the oatmeal ones.
Okay.
All right, Patricia, you're up. No sidekick for you either? No sidekick?
No, you know, we had 5 minutes and our sidekicks had bedtime.
Okay, same, so do I.
Children and bedtime. So I wanted to be fair to the community that we serve, their spouses and their children. Patricia Anderson Wick, Human Resources. So we've heard from many core departments about the accomplishments through their staff. While machines and other factors of production depreciate with the short term, employees, our human resources, appreciate with time. The job of the Human Resources Department is to foster that appreciation and value, and to partner with our employees as individuals and their department as teams to ensure the best service delivery through their talents, attitudes, knowledge, and abilities. In addition to the more mundane but important HR tasks of ID badge processing for security, electronic employee data and analytics, personnel record processing, the HR department devotes its time to key functions such as talent acquisition and classification and compensation programs. Talent acquisition is the first step in the employee experience, a program we call Street to Seat, and this includes attraction, recruitment, and onboarding, which has been dubbed Embark. The cost of attracting each employee from Street to Seat has a range of $1,800 to $5,500 and accounts for about 120 hours of staff time. According to NeoGov's benchmarking, Beaverton is ahead of our peer organizations in terms of time to hire. Our time to hire is 60 business days, compared to 103 days for peer organizations. The city's classification and compensation system is a fundamental legal, financial, and risk management framework for good government. The synergy between employee talent acquisition and classification and compensation system lies in their shared goal of promoting a culture of care, fairness, equity, compliance, and culture. Investing in human resources staff development enhances their organizational effectiveness in key performance. I must point out that most trainings of HR staff come by way of professional memberships, and that serves us well. I want to talk about data analytics and reporting. We have been asked about AI and talent intelligence. That is something HR has to pay attention to. We need talent intelligence in terms of workforce planning, data analytics, pay equity analytics, organizational design, job analysis. All of those we do in one person of brilliance. Today, we do all of that in one office in terms of a senior HR analyst. As we continue to explore the offerings of human resources, I also want to talk about our bilingual services to our residents. There are currently 57 employees, about 9% of our population, our employee population, who are certified as bilingual throughout our police department, our court, the library, and in the Beaverton building, who are bilingual in Arabic, Cantonese, Russian, Spanish, and Vietnamese. Well-crafted policies and risk management systems support organizational success and employee well-being. Among those are NAVEX Ethics Point, the online anonymous reporting system, which is in its developmental stage, I-9 verifications, and good labor relations, which collectively enhance organizational integrity, employee trust, and legal compliance. Our labor relations in Beaverton are positive, evidenced by the lack of grievances and open communications between the labor organizations and the city. Inclusion and belonging programs enable all employees to have equal and equitable access to educational and vocational opportunities. I'm going to tie in our tuition reimbursement program, our commercial driver's license, and DMV verifications. For example, job readiness, job engagement, and employee value are important in terms of how people show up. People show up to events when they feel valued, when they feel equipped, when they feel ready and seen. More than 85% of Beaverton's employees participate in appreciation events and peer engagement activities. The citywide diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging training, the portal Blue Ocean Brain, has attracted more than 80% of supervisors who have accessed resources as they lead and support equitable practices within their teams. The Human Resources Department continues to partner with all other departments, and in particular the Equity Department, to encourage supervisors to provide equitable conversations and participation of all employees within the city. Embark, which is a two-phase employee onboarding program, integrates new hires into the city's culture, values, and policies while strengthening connection among employees. With the assistance of seasoned employees who we call buddies, Embark creates a strong starting point for a more powerful immersion experience for new employees. In this fiscal year, we would have hosted 49 employees in Embark, with 22 buddies who have partnered with us during Embark days. Empower is the program that enhances the development journey for supervisors at all levels by offering ongoing access to tools and strategies to ensure effective team management and adaptive leadership. In this fiscal year, we will have had 101 supervisor training opportunities in the Empower program. The city's social responsibility and positive impact on communities are evidenced not only in many programs and services by its own employees, its human resources, dedicating themselves, each being able to volunteer 12 hours per year to local community organizations, which account for about 7,200 possible hours. But generosity doesn't just stop there. This year, and every year, city employees collectively give to organizations through our community giving campaign. In 2025, employees have promised $8,918 through payroll contributions. And that went to the Beaverton Educational Foundation and the Veterans Service Center. Beaverton employees also donated just under 400 pounds of supplies to veterans in December and January. I feel like I want to clap for employees when I think about that. Citywide training continues the employee life cycle in the form of personal and professional development. Training ensures employees stay current with evolving laws, regulations, and cultural shifts, accounting for over 1,547 course completions as of April this year. The city takes a keen interest in the engagement pulse of our employees and annually administers the Gallup Q12 Engagement Survey. Beaverton's results are similar to other government agencies across the country. Together, the HR programs create a continuous learning ecosystem that supports the city departments and programs and promotes inclusion, good government, adaptive leadership, and overall employee effectiveness. Oh, yes, please. Yeah.
For the employees.
Clap for the employees. Our human resources, they deserve it.
That's what I
want people to applaud, I just look at them too.
That's why.
Yes, we have really a mighty nation here. And feel free to clap for them, please.
Okay, questions, council?
I bet you I answered them all. Thank you.
All right, city manager, back to you.
All right, I got my mic on. So I want to make some comparisons with the city manager's office and then moving into the programs. And the city manager's office, particularly the administration, is akin to a composer and an orchestra. where the city manager's office composes and conducts music inspired by the council, and our job is to ensure a quality community performance that represents our values, from belonging to livability to prosperity. And our music produces cost-efficient city services, but also includes things like strategic planning, special studies, department and council work plans, agenda management, and resident response. And we do this through a small but mighty team of conductors, a city manager, 2 ACMs, plus 2 amazing administrative staff, which are here today, and they're the reason why we are all meeting. So thank you very much for organizing, to Jesse and Jolene. I appreciate you so much. And funny enough, government relations is in the city manager's office, but has its own band. It's called the Beatty and the Blake. And they support the city orchestra. I had to work that in there. And they support all the work that we do in conducting the orchestra and the community audience by building intergovernmental relationships and partnerships, securing funding, and advocating for the needs of the organization, residents, and businesses. And last, the recorder's office ensures that the music that we collectively write, like council actions, ordinances, resolutions, are recorded and preserved. They manage elections to allow the visionaries to come and inspire this music or songwriting. And they also respond to public records requests for those that are interested in copies of our our lyrics or our music that we compose. The CMO also has several special instruments, which we're going to hear later from Dan already. And that enhances the music that we play. And there are 5 of them. And we're going to start with comms and engagement.
Okay. Yeah, I was not on the music train. I was thinking like the whole heart and body parts. But anyway, yes.
References in here, I'm gonna really question some things.
Yeah, no, I was actually more thinking about comms and engagement around consciousness and kind of eyes and ears, how we both communicate our message but listen and try to engage residents in a way that we actually are having a two-way discussion with folks. The communication and engagement has recently reformed or formed into a team where you've got the neighborhoods program and the communications functions, really with the idea of exactly that, right? We want to bring in volunteers. We want to make sure they have a great experience. We want to hear from them, and we also want to be able to provide information to them that they can take back to their community, the various neighborhoods in the city. We also do that through kind of mechanical things. Maybe it's our instruments. I'll jump on the theme here. But in essence, looking at communications, they're doing enhancements to the programming. Your City, the newsletter that we all know, we've limited the number of runs that we're doing. The sheet music is changing maybe, and we've got 4 now instead of 6 issues of Your City, and we're able to still send that widely to 65,000 residents or 65,000 copies of that going out, but also trying to make sure that is more attractive. And so we're really putting an effort into kind of the readability, the usability of the tools that we have. The other thing in here is technology initiatives. So what we're trying to do as well is to focus on maybe not quite yet AI. We're getting there on AI, but we're implementing a system called Public Input, and it's an engagement platform. So it's an opportunity for us to push surveys out to the community. It's also a way to build engagement online and to have, we have e-newsletters on it already. We're also looking for ways to build conversations online, legally, of course, since I know there are some issues around that. All of this is done with relatively few staff, and I think you'll see that across the various elements of the orchestra. I think there are pieces of this where you've only got a few players, and that is, we're augmenting that with other tools like the Public Input and other things, but we're also realistic about what we can get done. And so we very much have tried to have a partnership model with staff internally, because obviously the communications functions help to bring the message out from various departments. The lovely work that facilities and than Tim get to do in our community. We get to tell that story, right? We get to have beautiful pictures that we promote the work to our community. And so definitely lean in on that as well. Part of the Neighborhood and Public Involvement Program is, as you know, neighborhood association committees. There are 11 that are supported by essentially 3 people, right? So we've got a lot of effort there, plus 13 boards and commissions, some of which are actually legally mandated. Some are, some is a local mandate, some is a state mandate, some are discretionary. And so, there are elements of this program where we are using that small group to, essentially get out into the community, like I said, try to activate volunteers and really think about what we can do more widely. I'll pivot, I suppose, into a different program, the Homelessness and Community Services Program. That is one that we've had in various forms for quite a while, and right now is comprised of 2 individuals. We've got a program manager, which is an elevation of that program. Rather than it now having a manager, it hopefully gives the program a little more elevation where we're not hopefully doing as much in the weeds. We're really thinking about managing and liaising, managing our relationships and working with, we've got obviously supportive housing funds. We've got other programs out there where we're working with Metro, or we're working internally with other community groups and the providers that are actually doing some of the legwork around supporting our residents that are experiencing homelessness. The program provides support. Obviously, we have a brand new shelter, and I wish I did have pretty pictures and a better story, I think, to tell about that. But that was a lot of labor of a lot of folks to get the shelter created. Thank you for the resources to get that, but also a lot of teams coming together and getting that online, and essentially working both with other people's money, Mayor's favorite flavor, as well as working with Metro and with other partners to make sure that we're able to get that done. The homelessness programming is also liaison to that, as we have an ongoing relationship through the Good Neighbor Agreement, and trying to make sure that we have a positive relationship with folks who are experiencing homelessness. We also have safe parking, which has been going on for 5 years. There are multiple sites in the community, and that's a program that has a relatively low cost, but hopefully is a lifeline for folks who are experiencing houselessness and are able to live in their cars at various locations and safely do so. So I think I might be able to pivot back to a different player, unless you want me to kind of stay through all of my programs. I can jump back into the band here if need be.
No requirement to stay with the music theme, but please proceed.
All right, well, I'll finish out then, if that's all right. We've also got sustainability and recycling, kind of the end of the line here as far as the city manager's programs, but the sustainability program is also really about our consciousness of what do we aspire to. The effort there is to really think about how we can use less, how we can make sure that we reuse more, right? All of the good analogies related to that, but it's focused right now on BCAP, the Climate Action Plan. The 2019 plan is being renewed now. It's a 14 to 16-month program that will result in a new climate action plan. And we're trying to pivot to a framework plan, less of a prescriptive list of things to do and more of some aspirational things that we will hopefully then be able to fill in projects as we go forward. And that program is managed by essentially 2.5 folks. We added a new person into that mix this budget year, and thank you for that. We also have a climate action task force that the team supports. It's a lot of work for one person, so we're grateful to have the second body in there to really augment our capacity. There are a number of programs that are listed here as well that I think are unfortunately on pause, in hibernation, as we await some decisions from the federal government. There are a lot of things that were part of the Inflation Reduction Act that are probably either no more or certainly we're waiting to find out the details of. We're working, though, on partnership with PGE and others to try to think about how we can do EV charging, electric vehicle charging, and coordinating some of that within the city with some of our internal departments as well. So a lot of effort focused on long-range planning and kind of this aspirational document, as well as thinking about some of the programmatic things that we can do rather than sort of wait for the feds to get their thing figured out. We're trying to move forward with what we can and to really make a plan for the long term so that we're able to meet the community's climate goals. And I will stop there.
So we can move, if you'd like, to hold your questions to the Equity Office and then wrap up with Municipal Court.
We're not going to do that.
It's just
Counselor
just a
Hartman.
quick question. It's about AI. The reason being is it actually has like a huge environmental impact, and so as we talk, it does. It's really like it's like more and more we're finding, it has a huge environmental impact, and so I think that I can't remember the phrase that you used. Responsible AI. I think I would also just ask for us to consider ethical AI, and I think like as it comes into the BCAP. Anyways, I got distracted by we're moving on, and I had a real question. I knew it was about AI, but it's gone now. So
you have the right to come back in.
I do?
I'll call on you. Yeah,
it's not a one and done.
Just
like
this
normal?
one time because you forgot your question.
Okay, thank you.
Just get library robots. Kenya.
All right, I'm Kenya Williams, and as the city's first Chief Equity Officer, I have the privilege of writing a new song. Yeah, see that? See how that worked out? Write a new song of what it means to belong, a song of how the Office of Equity and Inclusion builds connection, understanding, and belonging into the foundation of our city. It's a song of 3 programs, each with its own purpose, yet all in concert to cultivate a culture where every staff member and resident feels seen, heard, and valued. The first verse begins with the Office of Equity and Inclusion. We are just a crew of 2 FTE and 1 vacancy. Our purpose is to advance diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging across all city programs and services. We're the guides, the supporters, the consultants who engage with city leadership and departments, helping them see the city through an equity lens. Our key projects revolve around embedding these principles into the city's DNA. Think policy reviews, training sessions, ADA compliance, mandated language access, employee resource groups, and developing the DEIB strategic vision that ensures every decision reflects our commitment to being an inclusive city. Internally, we work with department heads and staff at all levels. Externally, we engage with community leaders and residents to align our efforts with their needs. The work that consumes most of our time are the deep, thoughtful consultations, hours spent listening and helping our colleagues operationalize DEIB, hours being comfortable, being uncomfortable, providing over 300 translations a year, crafting recommendations, and building trust. The work is hard, but the payoff has been worth every second. I've seen departments and staff shift from folded arms to handshakes, unsolicited invitations to gatherings, and many other genuine gestures of care and belonging. The biggest compliment and success recently received were that DEIB in the city feels different, and they feel more comfortable and equipped to serve our diverse community. The next verse unfolds with our events program, also staffed with 3 FTE. Their purpose is to spark joy and connection, connecting spaces where Beaverton's diverse voices can come together. They coordinate large-scale community-wide events like the Beaverton Night Market, Pride Parade, the tree lighting, while also managing the city's special events permits. Key activities include planning logistics, collaborating with local organizations, and ensuring every event represents the community's diversity. The stakeholders are a vibrant mix. They partner across multiple departments to help staff, community members, many first-time vendors, and attendees bring more than 40 events to life. The heavy lift here is the orchestration. securing venues, street closures, aligning schedules, and troubleshooting last-minute hiccups, all of which demand resources and long evening and weekend hours. But the outcomes are electric. Last summer's legendary Makers Market, a city-supported event, drew over 30,000 attendees over 3 days, which, with feedback highlighting how people enjoyed being in Beaverton and attending the event for the first time. That's belonging in action. Our chorus, the Center for Mediation and Dialogue, with 5.75 FTE, sounds quieter but no less powerful. Their purpose is to heal and connect, offering mediation, facilitation, and restorative processes that turn conflict into conversations. They provide a space where residents, tenants, and businesses can resolve differences and strengthen ties. Key projects include community dialogues on tough issues like foreclosure avoidance and one-on-one mediation sessions. Internally, you can always count on them for advice and expertise when dealing with a difficult community situation. Externally, they serve neighbors and anyone seeking resolution free of charge. Their most resource-intensive work is the long nuisance facilitation and restorative dialogue sessions where listening is as critical as speaking. Their successes shine in the more than 25 workshops they teach a year to community members, volunteer mediators and facilitators, City of Beaverton staff, nonprofit organizations, and government agencies. These aren't just workshops. They're skills to empower others to foster a sense of belonging. Together, our 3 programs contribute to all parts of the City of Beaverton's harmony. We cultivate a culture of belonging internally, foster a sense of belonging in our community. We are defining belonging through what we do and not acronyms. The Office of Equity and Inclusion sets the vision. The events program brings people together to experience it, and the Center for Mediation and Dialogue ensures everyone has a voice. Our staff fuels the culture internally through trainings, honest conversations, and events that remind them they're a part of something bigger. Our community feels it too, in the events that celebrate their identities, the policies that reflect their needs, and the dialogues that honor their perspectives. The Office of Equity is small and resources are stretched thin, but our outcomes, a DEIB framework that guides us, gatherings that unite us, and dialogues that heal us, prove that belonging isn't about scale. It's about Paulo, Jennifer, Shannon, Natalie, Aspen, Carly, Amy, Lisa, Michael, Desi, and Liz show up every day, day after day, to do the work that matters to help write this new song, one note at a time.
Thanks, Kenya. Looking at this, there's only a handful of staff between these 3 equity events and Center for Mediation Dialogue, and there's a lot of work that gets done, public and also not very seen because it's handled behind the scenes, like with mediation. I think this is just a framework that I'm coming into this, and we've heard from some of our other departments too, how we're leveraging external community partnerships to enhance and grow the work that we're doing within the city. So a good example here is some of the events that we helped support through the city but didn't have to lead ourselves. Like I love seeing that, like the legendary Makers Market and those sorts of events. And even like the volunteer service with the Center for Mediation and Dialogue programming, like the little staff that we have are able to do a lot of really great work, and I would just love it for us to keep on leaning into those partnerships and volunteers. And so I just want to give a thank you to the team's work, but also the community's work.
Councilor Hassan.
First question is maybe, can you help me understand, so with the communications team, what is the collaboration between like the police PIO and the library in terms of, because there is a bit of a difference, right? Because they do their own and we do our own.
There's coordination, I think one of the aspects that is called out is kind of the internal coordination, and not finding it on my look down, but there's an internal communication team that they have representatives from various departments and try to coordinate messaging. We're trying to lean into an editorial calendar concept where we've got messaging kind of planned out quarterly, and are tracking more of like when there's a media outreach or other things like that. We're kind of trying to create more of that one-stop approach. So there is coordination. In terms of formality, I'm not sure that there's always, like, I'm going to call so-and-so. I mean, there's a handoff between if there's a certain specialty or a certain department that they're looking for, that kind of thing. I think around events, you might see it because there's a PIO function and there's a PIO in the police department. And so, like, when we had the rain event at the last night market, that was a coordination effort there, and we learned a lot about our communication from it. And so we're trying to increase the number of PIOs we have for those kinds of issues as well. So there's coordination across the various functions of communications, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I think just generally, as an outsider, sometimes it feels disjointed, so it just something.
It's not perfect.
It's an evolution, and so it's important to talk, to at least mention that. Ken, in terms of like your vision or your office, what percent, and this is like there's no wrong answer, are you ready? What percent of your work do you feel is internal versus external? Like internal work within the city and then outside work outside?
That's a great question. I'm constantly meeting with community members. Whether they represent an organization or not, that varies. My philosophy is there's a lot that we need to do internally so we can be better externally. I think that's where I've focused. I don't feel like, the external has disappeared. We're just not really equipped. I think we need to, just have different strategies. And I think part of those strategies are developing different types of relationships. But it's time consuming, and we're doing the best we can with what we have.
I ask because I know for some of us out in the community, obviously we want more of that. There's only so many of us, and so how do we strike a balance while also supporting, finding support?
I'll give you some insight. I had a great meeting today with some former DAB members, and we're planning a DEIB speaker series in partnership with our library. The first series, we're aiming at late May, early June. It's called Know Your Neighbor, so it's a panel discussion, with community members. So, we're excited just to, honor community, let community really share some of their experiences, and use that also as, just a time and space for gathering with community, also creating, different partnerships, because we know people involved will be probably not the usual suspects who have relationships with, the city, So, I think those types of opportunities, as we, take the time and the due diligence to, put those all together, I think those are going to be some great new and different experiences for that external engagement that, I think what you're, kind of getting at. So I'm looking forward to that and looking forward to seeing, all of you there. All right.
I have one.
Oh, John.
Not done yet. No cookie yet.
I don't want
No AI questions. As a policymaker, when I think of DEIB work, I completely agree with you. Like it needs to be inwardly focused to get your own house right, to where we can show up externally in the right way. But as a policymaker, I also wonder, like I can't solve problems that aren't surfaced to us. So are there opportunities for reporting on things like representation or pay equity and things like that that we can begin, you know, once it's surfaced to us, begin structurally changing some things to support, you know, your essentially your mission here, right? I feel like you're speaking with the music theme, right? Blow the trumpet to let us know, but you can't solve those yourself. So, like, are there opportunities for you to kind of align from a reporting perspective to surface some of those things to us so we can kind of help at least filling those gaps? Because it's, even if we can't do it this year, right? Like, if I don't know about it, if we don't know about it, it's going to be really hard, you know, for us to solve it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm glad
Danger, Will Robinson. The city manager might have an opinion on this, so tread lightly.
I'm glad you asked that question. A fundamental flaw that I found when I accepted this position is that we don't have citywide equity goals. You know, we had a DEI plan. They had multiple goals, objectives, strategies. They were at a very programmatic level, and they were all over the place. Some programs, some departments may have shared the same goal, but they didn't align from a measurable perspective. Think of it this way. If we have 3 to 5 equity goals that are adopted citywide, and we can all measure those and we set the right performance metrics that we all roll up into, then we can start to say this is how we're measuring our success, whether it's hiring, whether it's procurement, whether it's, you know, whatever, you know, you decide as a goal. That will, you know, probably be a lot of work, you know, to define those goals. Most equity plans work that way, but the shift and the best practice over the years has been people aren't creating DEIB plans or DEI plans anymore. They're having strategic plans, and they're rolling their equity goals in their strategic plans.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is proper. When we get to a process of that nature, I think it will be very important to say what do we want to do as a city when it comes to DEIB goals. Each department, program, they adopt those goals, 1 or 2, 3 or 4, how many ever we decide, and then we track and we measure and then we report. And I think you'll have better informed information and data to make better informed decisions.
And then kind of the follow-up to that, thank you for that, like how do we get to the point of teams feeling comfortable with self-reporting some of the diversity classifications, right? Like I think about LGBTQ people or people with disabilities. Like sometimes you don't want to report that because you don't feel comfortable reporting that. So we can't even talk about representation because we don't know, right? We can't, it's really not easy to collect that information. So how do we get to that space?
It's always optional.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard too because, you know, from an HR perspective, we don't have any mandates or no one's signed a release to say that it's okay to report out on some of that information. So some of that information may be confidential until you have a policy or process that goes back to say, can we report out on that information specifically? Not a fan, really, but I feel that if people want to report that information, they can. I was just working, as Dan mentioned, public input. I was working with our community engagement manager on consolidating demographic selections. So we do have a new list of demographic selections that I'm hoping to standardize across the city. So if people do choose to select, you know, gender, disability, and whatnot, is consistent, and we're asking the same questions of everyone, even also our public, not just our staff, and hopefully that can, you know, start to build a different type of picture of who we're serving.
All right. Is that the end for you, City Manager?
No, we have the court and we have Michael Phillips joining us.
Okay.
Beautiful song. Because they're tired.
Definitely.
Need a little
Right.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Michael Phillips, the Interim Court Administrator, here to talk to you about the Beaverton Municipal Court. I wish I would have worked this into a song or musical theme, but that I was left out of that part of it. But so Beaverton Municipal Court handles low-level crimes like traffic violations and various misdemeanors. In addition, the city's court operates 2 specialty programs. The first is Behavioral Health Court, which is a probation diversion year-long program for individuals with mental illness to engage in treatment and hopefully result in dismissal of the case. The second specialty court is the Be Sober program, which assists repeat driving under the influence of intoxicant offenders in their recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. So a couple of key points to know about what the court is doing right now. Though a municipal court is not mandated by law, once we are operating a municipal court, we are beholden to multiple legal requirements and mandates. So a lot of the time that something that most of the staff spend their time on is really working with clients, with customers, doing customer issues and managing the court cases. That takes up the majority of the staff time. Some of the things that we're doing, that we are doing in the near future in this spring, is a grant-funded court assessment is taking place at the end of the fiscal year, which will look for efficiencies in software and operations in an effort to better serve the community and process collections. Let's see. And I think this was mentioned earlier with the PD, but the court is currently working on a photo radar expansion campaign in partnership with the PD. This is an effort to modify behavior, driving behavior, and reduce fatalities out on the roads. And that is what I have for you right now. Are there any questions?
Sorry, really quick, and I know this isn't just a budget question, but many, many years ago, when I was on the budget committee, the court was revenue neutral. It is not anymore. And so I know there were some pandemic-related choices made that I think have been kind of fixed as far as like postponing. We should be approaching normal again. Can you help me understand a little bit about what some of the things we're facing where that gap is?
I can speak somewhat on that. Those cases that we're talking about in the past, I think they have made a decision to move forward. And I don't want to overspeak on that aspect of it, but we are looking at those efficiencies to improve our collections, to kind of fix that gap that's there. That's really one of the major things that we're doing. Jenny, if you want to.
Well, I also think the mayor has context because during COVID, a lot of things stopped and collections stopped, fines stopped. And so I also think that there was a shift, and we are in a position to write some of those things off and move forward. And with respect to the assessment that's happening, we're trying to correct some of the systems so that we have more of an efficient collections process because that's a big concern. But I know the mayor and I had a conversation, so Mayor, you may want to add a few
Sure.
comments.
The courts were never in the past like a cost burden to the city, and they were neutral and at times often generated money. I mean, you could go back and look at the paper and see, they used to call us Ticket Town USA, and how we combated that narrative was by putting out statistics that 90% of the tickets we issue were to non-Beaverton residents. Because we often end up in this like thoroughfare of people commuting from Portland into Hillsborough and vice versa. COVID had some like multiple impacts on us, right? Like people stopped driving, which drove down tickets we issued for speeding and radar, which is a good thing per se, but we still maintained all the staff. And the city council made a decision, and this was even before you two, that we were not going to collect traffic. We were just not going to collect because everyone was so hit by the pandemic. When we decided way too late in the game to start collecting revenue, we had faced constitutional issues around how long it had been. And they were waiting for directive for the council. And we waited an extraordinarily long time to go back into person in the courts, which created access to justice issues and revenue issues. I would also say that the police chief made a decision to remove, at the council's directive, photo radar vans, there was a cost associated with it. We had really bad vendors. So that was costing us a lot of money, but that wasn't always the case. Like the vendors, the quality of the photos they were producing was a lot less. And we blessed the chief's decision to do that, but those vans used to generate revenue, and then they stopped and obviously removed them because of that. And then in the legislature, the Beaverton GR team fought to have the mid-block cameras to kind of replace the photo radar van because they're less staff intensive. There is some capital up cost, but it took all the way till last year, and now we're finally in the implementation period. The council also made the policy to start charging anything over 10 miles an hour for revenue. And so we, as in policymakers, contributed to the reduction of the court, and we just under Jenny's leadership have brought some of that back up. And so that's the way that we have to, they were never that way before. And I would make the argument that we had 3 judges and then 2, and then we added another judge because the revenue that was producing out of the speed was quite significant. And then we added the behavioral health court, and then we added, we'd already had our long-term court operations for DUIs. And so when you look at how this elected body has impacted the revenue, it has almost been directly our policy making of non-collecting that has done it. And so we have to give them some time to rebound back up, because what is not seen in the court revenue is that, one, we have a long-term relationship with the county to do these services, that we can't just say we're not doing them anymore. And then there's a cost to it. Like the courthouses in downtown Hillsborough, they already cannot keep up with their load, so they might not even choose to see our tickets. Like they're not constitutionally required to do it. And then you have to think about our officers that have to appear for every ticket would have to leave Beaverton to downtown Hillsborough and back. And so there are some things in there that are impacts to how we're doing it. But again, I think part of today's lesson in all of this work is how we have impacted the decision making around here. And I would say court has been hugely impacted by the events of the city council and how we've made decision. And I think Megan might disagree with me on some of those points because her face might suggest other. Okay, I didn't know if we were going to do like a counterpoint argument here, but I think that to the court, we have been the biggest impact to revenue.
I think that's a good thing, because that means we can start fixing them, right? Like we can start changing the policy if we choose to do so, right? Like at least
well, we
that
should,
option
because we can't afford. And if you're speeding in town, it's different during COVID than today. And then I would say the other thing that we've added the workload piece on is traffic tickets. Or, I mean, not traffic, parking tickets, because we've added this parking program that is, no one really had a home for it, and the court took over the management of that, and without really any policies in place. So again, that was something we decided to do to them, and that took a lot of effort for them to do it.
That's super helpful.
I will be added to the FTE of the court now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Are we done with your office?
Yes.
On to the city attorney.
Good evening. So the attorneys in the city's attorney's office were lucky, because we get to experience the challenges and opportunities that come with providing legal advice to one of the most highly regulated industries, and that's local government. So this is a business where everything is regulated, from the way we purchase the pencils, what's allowed on our bulletin boards out in our public spaces, and how we provide safe drinking water to the public. Once the city decides to take on a project or a service, it is also agreeing to comply with all the regulations and all the laws that come with that. And our office's mission is to help the city council and the city departments accomplish their goals by helping them navigate this complex regulatory environment so that they can create the vibrant and safe community that is Beaverton. So this evening, you all have heard a lot of information about a lot of things going on at the city. I just want you to take away 4 points when it comes to the city attorney's office. First, the city attorney's office is comprised of 2 divisions in the general fund. That's the general counsel division and the prosecution division. The prosecution division assures with its 5 full-time employees that Beaverton remains safe for all the residents of Beaverton by doing 4 things, primarily. Prosecuting misdemeanors within the city limits. That's approximately 1,700 cases per year. That's from filing to trial. Representing the city in violation cases. This is traffic cases when it's necessary. Providing critical services to support the behavioral health court and the Be Sober program here at the city. And then finally, training, policy review, and internal legal support for the police department and our code enforcement divisions. That's all provided by our prosecution division. The general counsel division provides legal advice and representation to the city council, the city manager's office, every department, all city agencies and programs and boards and commissions. The general counsel's top priorities, with its 6 full-time employees approximately, are to support the city council's goals, provide compliance and risk management services, meeting preparation and support. This includes reviewing 160 agenda bills to date for this fiscal year and providing scripts and attending the meetings of the city council and borough. Public records and requests and subpoenas, that's another category that we spend a lot of time on, and then labor and employment advice. The second thing I want you to remember is that almost all of the services provided by the city attorney's office are mandated either by federal, state, or local law, which sets that the city attorney's office is the chief legal officer for the city, and the Beaverton Code specifies all of the things that the city attorney's office is going to do and provide for the city. Third, providing compliance and risk management services is critical to the health and the organization of the city. And of the 5 priorities I mentioned for the general counsel division, this probably takes up the most amount of time, and for good reason. It is cost effective to provide advice early and avoid litigation, and our department is focused on that. We are very risk preventative in our focus. Risk management and compliance touches almost everything that the city does. This is from our training and advice that we provide to all of the staff and departments on things like ethics and political restrictions and public contracting law. And like Public Works, our office is also successful when the work that we do is not known by anyone, and this is because we don't make the headlines. And again, that's because of this advice and the training that we're trying to provide on the front end. There are many daily operations that are prescribed by law that we're also providing legal advice for the council and then also for our departments. These are things like procurement, public meetings, public finance, building activities, all of these things. Required services is another category of compliance that we're dealing with on a regular basis. You heard the CDD department talking about its land review process and the development review. That's highly regulated. We provide the support for that service as well, along with public records and, again, drinking water, all of the things. So, you know, as an example, a few years ago, the city we're required to have a water supervisor with particular certifications. It's available 24 hours a day, every day of the year for our water department. When that person wasn't available, we had to go out and enter into an intergovernmental agreement to fill that gap. Those are the types of things that we're making sure happen so that we're compliant with whatever the regulations are for whatever program or service the city is providing. We also provide the legal advice for beneficial services and programs once they're offered that are also highly regulated. You heard a lot about the court today, and that is one of those programs that provide safety for Beaverton residents. Our department, because we prosecute those crimes, we're also required to provide discovery packets for approximately 1,000. We do approximately 1,200 a year. And we also have to provide victims assistance services as well. So we do all of that for the compliance side of the municipal court prosecution. Finally, the last thing, then you won't have to hear me talk anymore. The city attorney's office, when fully staffed, is operating near capacity. But this is not because we are taking on our own projects and coming up with our own things to do. That's rare. Instead, our focus, again, is on helping the city council and the city departments meet their goals and support the priorities of those departments. We accomplish this by working collaboratively with all of our partners across the city and all of the departments and with the council. We do things like help with the implementation of the photo enforcement program, do the land and construction contracts for the shelter, enter into amendments when needed to get the $3 million in funding for the Kemmer Pump Station to support affordable housing, and so many more projects, almost all of the ones that you heard about here tonight. So in closing, our office takes this responsibility very seriously to provide cost-effective legal advice to help the city navigate a very complex set of regulations across all of our regulatory environments. I hope I kept it under time. We're right at 8. So.
Councilor Tivnon.
Just a quick question, since AI has been brought up so much today.
Sure.
Don't ask me personally how I feel about it. I could go on and on, but this is...
It speaks volumes.
Yeah. I think that the main driver behind the question is just about efficiency in general. How do you it's like the household dollar, or how do you get the most out of the meals you're making or whatever? We're just looking for ways to maximize. I imagine it looks a little different in your neck of the woods. So can you talk a little bit about that, of how the legal realm is even thinking about AI?
So first, I like to give the ITS director a bad time about the nuclear power that has to be created for AI purposes. But honestly, in the city attorney's office, one thing that we do have to worry about, probably more than other departments, is just that the information we put into an AI tool is not necessarily private. And so we have to be very careful about how we use AI, how we would ask it questions, the way we would formulate things to make sure that none of our client confidences are given up when we're entering in to use that tool. So we have to be, I would say, a little bit more concerned about the use of AI, but we are also a partner with ITS, and we have 2 people on our team in the test group as well, working on and trying to find ways that we can use it that will be efficient and are going to prevent risk as far as, privacy concerns and client information. So.
I would just say we know a lot about your office because I think the council, and under your leadership as the interim city attorney, has really taken on the responsibility of meeting with council more frequently. And so I know the workload that's been on you and your team to make sure that the 7 of us feel very supportive. It is a huge notable shift in the city's attorney's office. I just want to thank you for that work. And it's not unnoticed when you have that many meetings with us. It just takes up quite a bit of time. And we've had some challenging things the last 2 years that you've had to be a part of in negotiation. So your department is a great example of what we asked for from the dais. It only really touches 2 people's hands for sure, the city managers and yours, and all of the work that we ask for comes through your office for regulatory. I know I'm not the easiest mayor to work for because I push back really hard on 99% of what you tell me, but I think we get into a really good place, and that to me is an example of partnership. Like, we need to have the trust of the attorney to say, but can we push it here? We also you need to have the trust with us to push back and say, this is where my legal advice is telling you to go. And I would just say it's a notable shift in the last 4 years. And so I know you're going back into your assistant city manager role, but I hope
Oh, please, don't put me over in the city manager's office. I love providing legal advice. If you couldn't get that from my
slip there. But I know as you go back into a member of the division, I do know you'll have the responsibility of training. Still, as the number 2, we're going to see you still very frequently, and just thank you for the work that you've done in this role to moving our goals and positions forward, because there's not too many departments that touch literally everything that comes out of our mouths, and yours is one of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last one should be easy because we talk about it all the time.
Well, that would be the council and the mayor's budget, and I would not dare come up with a non-sport analogy, Mayor, so maybe you guys are the rugby team, because I was Googling how many members make up a team of 7. So that would be, rugby could be one of them, handball could be another. So, but we have that information in there for you. And obviously we equip you with the resources to be able to do your job for travel and training and going to events and whatnot. And the mayor's budget, she's a full-time mayor, so it's a little bit different and has a staff per the charter. So mayor and council, I don't know if you have questions about your own budget. Happy to answer those.
Intimately involved with both, so I'm good. I don't use any AI or bots.
No. Do we know where we're at as far as like our M&S budget? Like, I'm assuming we're underspending at this point?
You regularly underspend your budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I would, say one of the things that you guys underspend is going to League of Cities. And I would just encourage you guys, that peer-to-peer connection that you build as city councilors is really important.
I know what, go ahead. I know once we had requested, was this the one I requested quarterly? I don't know. Just to get quarterly updates maybe on this budget. Does that sound familiar? Am I making that up? I thought there was a budget that I was requesting for quarterly updates.
I don't think so. I think you're accurate, but however, the spending activity is so
minimal.
incredibly low that it's really, there's not a lot to report on.
I think it would help because then I would know what he's saying, which is that we're underused. Does that make sense? Like if we could just get that back up, because then we would know that we're not using, and then we would remember. Does that make sense, Jenny?
We absolutely can do that if that's the council's desire.
Okay. Sure.
Sorry. Okay, so I know that this is a look back, kind of like now. And I also know that we're moving based on recent decisions around council stipend and PERS contributions, things like that. Change quite a bit.
They will change based on what's been submitted to the attorney's office in terms of whether you're saying that you're adhering to the 600 hours. I know the mayor's definitely has been adjusted. So I'm looking to either Megan or Debbie to confirm with respect to the adjustments on the personnel side for the council budget.
And I believe that we do have an option to go ahead and assume that we will, but also if we feel like at the end of a year that we haven't met that threshold, we can.
That is correct.
Okay, so these numbers are a little squishy in the fact that we're
Correct.
underspending and there's some variability around that as well.
Yeah. However, the underspending is always typically going to be on your materials and supplies, and what's constant is the personnel piece, because on what we're legally required to put in there, we do.
But we can catch a beat. This is a really low number. Like, I think, you guys, I know managing our budget as a good optics, but 228,000 is not an exponentially high number. Thank you, City Manager, for the work tonight. I think giving us all a baseline understanding of where we are is incredibly helpful as we roll into the budget season, where we're going to start to have more in-depth conversations about the general fund and the deficit and where we are. So really understanding from our perspective when we're making decisions, it's not as easy as, CIS, or not as easy as a library. Like, we understand, I think, a lot more now what is in there. I would say that this document is phenomenal. The work that you and your team produced tonight was probably the best I've seen from you guys since I've been the mayor. The communication, the really taking this responsibility of helping to educate elected officials, which I know is no easy task. Like, you hit it out of the park. I don't have a music reference for you. But I would just say, like, I know the lift that it took, because you and I had lots of conversations through this, and to the executive team and all of your team that supported you, like, this is the level that we need to defend to the community what we're spending, how we're doing, good storytelling. What we got from the department heads tonight was a clear understanding of not just coming forward and saying we're overworked. It was like, look at the work that we're doing. I think you guys had a great connection to what council's been asking you to do. What is chartered responsibility? What is the state responsibility? Where we have some wiggle room, where we honestly don't have any wiggle room, what the people of this organization are doing to lift the 7 of our goals. And I would just say, to do this in the creation of the budget that is going to come out to us in 2 weeks, this was no easy task. But I do want you to know that I think this work is going to help us do what is required of us, which is pass a balanced budget and get the trust of our community. So on behalf of the council, I know what we asked for. I know the workload. So thank you. And not that any of us are going to look forward to the budget conversations ahead, but I feel a lot more prepared to have conversations about the general fund than I did a week ago. And I've been here for a long time. So there was stuff in here that I hadn't seen either. So thank you for the work on behalf of the council. And I hope you earned your sandwich and your cookies, because it feels like we did today. And with that, I'm going to call the meeting to close.
Right. And just really quickly, Mayor, I also want to recognize, and I appreciate your comments, but Jolene Weiss, Jesse Hall, and Jessica Gomez that are here tonight have a lot to do with what is in front of you today. So I really appreciate them. They are the fabric and the backbone of the city manager's office.